it. Derek Holland. Swing it. Derek Holland. Swing it. Derek Holland. Swing it. Derek Holland. Swing it. Derek Holland. swinging. Derek Holland.
Yes, I'm live. We're live now.
I'm still playing music.
No, you're good. I'm setting something up anyway because we're waiting for Dyer, so it's perfect. Okay, good. We're up to date. No. That was cool. Aha, that's why this probably needed to be updated. Let's catch up in here. Terps, thank you for the 38 months. Favorite podcast, and I think Conforto will end up with the Rangers. It's not a bad pickup. Then you guys talked about that. I'll be honest, I don't really think the Rangers should trade for anyone that bats below 250. Okay. Still go for Brian Reynolds. No way the Yankees can get him too. That's possible. They've got prospects, but we'll dive into all that. Once we get Dyer in here, he should be coming soon. And
I did tell him 15, so.
Yeah, he did say 9:15, so he should be showing.
But we are talking about Dyer time, so.
It is Dyer time.
We are talking about Dyer time. I'll switch.
Okay, so that light updated. So hopefully that works. Okay, perfect. And this one needs updated as well.
Put Craig in here as soon as Dyer gets in here. Just playing some Christmas jams as we wait. Little Trans-Siberian Orchestra.
Yes, and Terp stream, which you need to plug your stream.
Twitch.tv/Terp17.
There it is. Click follow. Click sub. Click it all. Click it or ticket.
I mean, here's the thing, though, right? So, I guess we could talk about this a little bit in the podcast, but I just want to address this now because I'm curious. When you say that like people shouldn't sign anyone batting under 250, the major league average has been under 250 going back to 2019, and it was 252 once in 2019, and in 2018 it was 248. So you're saying you don't want to sign a major league average hitter?
But I think what they're stating is like people are getting, now this is, we're talking trade, I know, but
right. Well, no, Conforto's a free agent.
I know, but I'm saying, okay, yeah, if we were talking about that. But I'm saying like, I bet the other thing too is that, please be updated. God dang it. I don't know how to do that.
I'm just saying if the average is under 250 by a good margin, and the average has sat around 250 since 2011.
Yeah, but they're saying people are getting rewarded is what at least that's what I feel like they're saying is people are getting rewarded for batting so shitty instead of like the guys that should be getting paid more that are 300.
Well, what I'm saying though is like, if the average the last few years has been under 250, and you're going after someone who's over the average, wouldn't that be rewarding someone for being above average?
Yeah.
Because I mean, you could argue the trend all day, but is what it is. I mean, we can talk about it in a minute. Let's get Craig in here. Hi, Dyer.
Hi.
Damn it.
Are you tracking your second favorite team that wears red?
No, I haven't actually. Just sat down for the first time since getting back from Vance's guitar. How's it going?
Now recording.
Oh, I gotta click this
Now
Zencast.
recording.
Hold on.
Since I was late, I technically was here before Derek since he wasn't ready for Zencaster. 0.5 of a second before me.
Is that how we're judging this metric? Is you got Zencaster first and therefore you are ready first?
Let me get it on a technicality.
Listen, is your cheese board even ready, bro?
Let me tell you something. That cheese board, I've been so pissed off about that fucking cheese board for the last week that I couldn't even think. Cheese board has been a part of every family gathering that I've ever been involved in since the moment that I started going to family gatherings.
Listen, all I'm saying is Tyler's still editing that podcast, and he hasn't said anything yet about it. So I'll be curious to see if he picks up on the cheese board hate and if he's with you or against you, because he's usually against your food takes.
But I think he's going to be with me. He's a Midwest guy, and I think the cheese board might be a Midwest thing.
I mean, listen, I have cheese boards at my family gatherings too. I'm just saying I would never bring one. I would never bring a cheese board as my contribution to a family gathering.
You can knock the cheese board all you want. The cheese board's always a fan favorite.
Listen, all I'm saying is I'm not showing up to a family gathering or like a friend, like let's say like I moved to Texas or whatever, and Derek says, "Hey man, I'm having Thanksgiving. You want to come over? Cool. Can I bring anything? Yeah, bring whatever you want." I'm not showing up at the cheese board.
And I bring the cheese board a lot, and the cheese board is almost always gone before dinner starts.
I feel like if I walked in with a cheese board, Head would look at me and just go, "What the fuck is this, Terps?"
That's a tough one to pick. Like you can't go after him, so.
No, I know, but like,
because he's gonna bitch about anything just because.
That's true. That's true.
That's how he works. He
like
wants
Derek,
to just
how would
troll.
you react if I came in and there was like, I brought those little red cheese wheels that are covered in red wax?
I would just be like, all right, well, we got a cheese plate.
Yeah, like.
Hold on a minute. Now you're bastardizing the cheese board. Nobody's bringing Baby Bell cheese on the cheese board. We're talking about quality cheeses here.
Like what? I mean, okay, yes, there are some quality cheeses, but again, you're right. You can get some high quality brie. You could get some high quality cheddar. You know, get some high quality Munster. You can get some spreadable blues. That's all great. No, I'm just never bringing that to a family gathering. Like I am
We
not.
should have
showing up
started
with a
this.
cheese board.
We should have started the show and then just talked about this.
Well, we are starting the show. You know.
Oh, you didn't do the intro, so that's why I didn't know.
Listen, whose side are you on?
I'm not knocking a cheese plate for the record.
Okay, listen. Here's what I'm going to compare the cheese plate to, okay?
Please do.
The cheese plate is not the first round pick. The cheese plate's not the quarterback. It's not taking your team to the
Didn't you
promised
take it
land.
second round?
I think I took it like third or fourth, didn't I?
No, he took it.
I took charcuterie second
You took
round.
charcuterie. No, you took charcuterie second round.
Okay. Cheese plate
Listen,
might have been like right after
A
that.
little bit, yeah.
The cheese plate.
Here's the weird thing. I would take cheese plate sooner than charcuterie board.
What? How? Charcuterie has some cheese and also delicious dried meats and some pickles and whatever else you want on it, some nuts and some dried fruit.
I'm with-
It's got more variety.
Here's the
I'm
problem
with Dyer
charcuterie-
on this one.
Here's the problem
Sorry.
with charcuterie boards, though, is that if a charcuterie board is not up to scratch and it lays out, then you're just having like not great meats. I'm just saying the margin for error is greater in a charcuterie board than it is in a cheese board. Am I wrong?
Yes and no. I think it depends.
Like how many times have
Depends on what you get.
How many times have you like we've all seen the charcuterie board that's basically just a flour salami and Ritz crackers.
Now see, now we're mailing it in. Now we're
just saying, that's
bastardizing
part-
this.
I'm not
but that's
bastardizing. I'm
not
just saying that is one version of charcuterie board.
That's
that
not a
we all see.
charcuterie board.
Yes,
That's
but yeah,
crackers and salami.
And then people put like the little pre-sliced pepperonis on there. You know what I'm talking about? And then they get like the little ham blocks and they put toothpicks in them.
See, now we're talking about two different things.
It's still a charcuterie board.
Now we're talking about we've got relish trays and we've got charcuterie boards. Okay, there's one that is elevated and one that's just kind of pedestrian ho hum.
I just think I understand what you're saying and you're entitled to your opinion, but your opinion is
I disagree.
I'm with Dyer on the charcuterie board, but the cheese platter or cheese plate, whatever. Nah, I don't know. It's great.
So
I love it.
Maybe I went heavy on the finger foods, but that's how my Christmases go. I don't do a big meal or anything. I do grazing type stuff that we can just pick at throughout the day. We don't do a meal typically.
there's nothing wrong with
It's just
grazing.
kind of eat all day long. You know, if you're hungry, you get your bowl of chili, you know, at 2 p.m. because you had your breakfast casserole that we always make at 10 a.m. And, you know, it's the eating schedule doesn't line up with normal eating times. So this is what we do. But what I was going to say, the cheese plate is like that guard that you take in the fourth round that, you know, has a high upside. Maybe his arms are a little bit short, but he's got good footwork and he's strong. He put up a bunch of reps at the combine. So nobody's getting super excited about it, but everybody's happy with it.
Well, on that note, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our cheesy intro to Off the Fair Poll. Before we get into the meat of things, I'd like to welcome everyone here with myself, Terp17, Dutch Oven 45, Mr. Derek Holland, and Van Dyermaker, all here today. Talk about some fun stuff. We're going to ignore my terrible puns there, although I thought they were, but you know.
I quite liked it.
Thank you.
It works.
Thank you. But we got some stuff to talk about today. You know, if you guys lived under a rock and didn't understand what we just spoke about, be sure to check out our Christmas fantasy draft. That episode will be live by the time this episode is live. Be sure to give it a listen. Great episode. There's some heated conversation in there. Not as heated as the candy draft, because the candy draft was just, listen, there were just some picks that made zero sense. But there was a lot of fun had in the draft. Therefore, go listen to that Christmas episode. But man, do we have a lot to talk about? Do we have a lot of signings to talk about? We got some NIL stuff to talk about because some crazy stuff's happening there. We got to talk about right now that Liberty is leading Toledo 7-3 in the third quarter. Dyer, any hot takes there real quick? Liberty is your secondary team now, obviously.
Man, that's one that kind of miffs me a little bit. You know, these are teams that aren't typically known for their defense throughout the season. So a 7-3 ball game is kind of an interesting one. Where is this game being played? Is it an
Boca
indoor?
Raton.
Oh well, shit, it's fine then. It's still, I think it's still relatively chilly.
Did we lose him?
I think we might have lost him.
It shows him on my screen or on the.
I do too. I'm
Being
guessing.
step out
There he is.
there we
because they're going in the draft. Not very many, right?
Yeah, no, not very many at all.
If at all. So I don't know. This is an odd one. I haven't had a chance to watch any of it, unfortunately, since I was out and about leading up to this. But I'd like to take a look at some stat lines and see what's going on and what we're looking at here, because that is a bit strange considering the two teams we're talking about.
Well, we do keep in mind Liberty did lose their head coach. Hugh Freeze
Yeah, that's a big piece.
is going over to Auburn, I believe. Toledo, a good team though, but yeah, you know, not a lot of fans there. It's in Boca Raton, not two huge schools, but you know, your boys in red are bringing it to the boys in blue and maize right now. This is actually really appropriate.
Let's not
Toledo?
call them the boys in blue and maize, all
It's
right?
the exact same color. It is the exact same color.
No, we call
I'll
them
bet you-
yellow.
I'll bet you it is now 10. It is now 10-7 Toledo. By the way, I will bet you that their Pantone is within 1 or 2 digits of yours.
But it's not it. So we're good. They're not Michigan.
But
Toledo did dodge a bullet there, not having one of their colors be red,
they did.
as
They
they
did.
are the Toledo Rockets.
Huh. The Red Rockets.
Red Rockets.
See what you did there. I love
Be a
that.
dog for their mascot.
Oh no. No. No.
There he
no.
goes.
Off we go. off the fair polls, just as Dyer's already on that poll.
Woo! That's what she said.
I love it.
I'll
There
give
it
it
is
to you.
again.
I'll give it to you. I will give it to you.
Hot start, boys.
Anyway, some things have happened since our last recording. There's been some signings, of course. Right at the tail end, Carlos Correa, maybe to the Giants.
Yeah, I was gonna say let's just go ahead and dive right
Maybe?
into that. I don't see that.
Is it a possibility?
My issue or my thing is, I bet that's why he was so late to be signing. People didn't like his medical records, and that's how it goes with a lot of the teams. Is before they get you, they look at your medical records. For example, a team has contacted me. They have my medical records. They're going to look at that stuff, and then they come back to you, and then you start to proceed or whatever from there. Or you could be doing it, and let's say his medical record showed he was clean. Well, when you sign with a team, you'll still do their medical testing, what they want. So, for instance, I think it was, it was Boston. When I signed with them, they wanted to see my elbow. And so I had to get an MRI on my elbow and my knee and then my shoulder. So I had 3 MRIs I had to do just so they could decide afterwards, okay, this is how it looks now. Do we want him? So something has to be there, something that's lingering. So I think he's had shoulder issues before. I could be wrong. Or maybe it was elbow. I knew it was an arm, I think, was the issues. Again, I could be wrong. I'm just throwing it out there. So I think that was the major red flag. They saw something in his, for me, like I said, I think it was his arm. They saw something that doesn't look good. Meaning,
The question there, though. Sorry, go ahead. I thought you were done.
well, no. I was going to say, meaning it could be something like Tommy John. His elbow ligament could be bad. He also could have some major tear in his shoulder. I don't know. So I can't remember exactly what his injury was.
The question, though, is what do they see? What are they looking at that wasn't there when the Twins signed him last year? Or was it
Maybe
there?
the Twins didn't care.
Maybe,
Because
Yeah.
they're
Could be
looking
the-
at a 1 or
could
2
be the
year
case.
deal versus
yeah.
a 6, 7, or however long it was.
Or maybe it just wasn't
true.
that bad. Maybe it was kind of there and they're like, well, I don't think it's that major, so we can get through it. And then all of a sudden now, it got worse and this team has seen it. The Giants seen it and they're like, okay, this is a red flag. They have a very good training staff. So they're on top of their shit when it comes to looking at all that.
So Derek, here comes the question. What happens if we get a situation where they decide to pull back now? What does that do to his trade to his signing stock? Or do you just try to
plummets.
keep him, or do you
It's
try to
gonna drop
keep him
down
on a lower, because the years are there.
Yeah, it's gonna be well, I don't think the years will be there. I think it'll drop big time just because
I'm saying from the Giants, their offer already includes the year. So do you take a flyer maybe,
yeah, I mean,
just so you lock him up?
it's just 1 year. I don't know. If it's me, it's like, all right, we're gonna drop down the price. We'll keep the years for you, but we'll drop the price. But it's gonna be a lot because we're missing a year of you. If that's, let's say it is. I hope to God it's not. I hope he doesn't have any
Yeah.
major issues. But if it is, I could see them dropping a good amount of money, like at least 1 year's worth of salary gone, and still keep the year up there.
And
So
if
what-
you're
what-
other
what-
teams
like-
now, do you swoop in? Because I mean, again, it comes down to what is it? What's the problem? Is it something that the Giants
Well,
maybe
all
perceive as
those-
a problem, but other teams won't?
All those teams that have his information already, they know. So it's up to them now. Like, all right, well, since they're putting this out there, maybe we can get him on the cheap because of that. Or cheaper, I should say. They're definitely the money's going to come down. I think the teams, if somebody wants to take the flyer on him because they don't think it's that major, then they will.
I
But,
mean, we were talking about 13 years.
and
They have him 13 years, 350. So like,
it sucks. We don't know what his issues are. And when I say his money goes down, we're talking like you said it was 350.
350 over 13, yeah.
Okay, so it's going to be 13 over 300.
Lose 50 million right off the rip.
Yep.
Which isn't pennies.
No,
Right.
it's not.
I mean, we're still talking about $300 million, but $50 million is a lot of money, no matter how you cut it. It says at this point they're awaiting test results. It doesn't say exactly what
but something still flagged
Or-
it. Like something
Yeah.
still came up where they made the decision that they need to postpone a $350 million commitment. You would think if it was something small, like he has an existing injury that's on its way to being healed, or if it's something like, just normal wear and tear, that wouldn't flag like this. You would think that this would be something a little more extreme to curtail and postpone one of the Giants' biggest signings since Madison Bumgarner.
Sure.
Like, I can't think of a bigger Giants signing than him, or even going back to the Tim Lincecum era. Like, this is a big deal for the Giants.
It's a huge deal.
It's a big piece for them, and it's got to be something serious if they're going to postpone it. Hopefully, it's nothing super serious, and it just comes up as a precautionary double take. But if it doesn't,
Again, I wish we knew what the injury was, but that's probably not something we're going to get to hear, because then
No.
that gives you a better idea of what's going to happen or what they're doing.
other signing news, of course, we're going to talk about it because it happened 2 days after we recorded, or a day after we recorded. Carlos Rodon to the Yankees, 6 years, $162 million. He went to the Empire State, to the cold, dreary winter of New York City. As of right now, I have begrudgingly told him I'll buy a Yankee jersey. He says I have to wear one. I don't know if I'll go that far. That's hard for me.
He's a city boy now.
He's a city boy now. Good for him, though. I think the Yankees probably have the best, on paper, have the best proven rotation in New York at this point in time.
But wait, between the Mets?
Yeah, you have Scherzer and
Oh, the
Verlander.
Mets. I thought you were saying
Yeah.
the Mets. Sorry, I thought you said the Yankees have the best.
I think they do right now on paper of proven
The best
pitchers.
rotation?
Of proven pitchers.
The Yankees
Yeah.
have a better.
You have three proven guys right now on the Yankees who all performed at high levels last year. You
You're-
have Carlos, Cole, and you have what's his name? Just forgot his name.
the lefty?
Nelson.
Mustache guy.
Nestor?
Yeah.
Nestor?
Yeah, Nestor Cortez.
So that's your three guys.
Versus Scherzer, Verlander, Senga's unknown. I would take Nestor over Quintana.
I don't know.
And who's your five guy right now? Cookie?
Cookie's been in the playoffs.
He has been. So's
You got
First
playoff
night.
experience there.
you do.
I
think
mean, I
it's-
love what you're saying, but no, I'm sorry. The Mets have the better rotation when it comes to that.
I think the Mets will end up having the better rotation
I
by the
love
end of
Nestor.
the year.
I love Nestor, and I hope to God he fucking shoves and continues
To shove like he did the last 2
But
years.
the first year, does that really count?
Yeah, 2021.
Oh, 21. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. He's had 2 back-to-back years of full season pitching.
Okay, so you got three guys there. Quintana is literally a 7-inning guy. He's an inning eater. He always is
Yes.
in every single game. Leads probably the MLB, if I'm not mistaken, in no decision games, getting taken out because they have no run support. So he's definitely proven himself.
Mm-hmm.
Cookie he's played in the playoffs. He's pitched in the playoffs. He's a pretty big name pitcher. I mean, he's not your number one. He's a perfect number 5.
Did
But
you
I
say
would-
then maybe New York better 1-2 punch top to bottom goes to the Mets?
I would say 1-2, 100%. Well, I don't know.
It's tough.
Cole is the only reason that I'm not, because Carlos has been lights out the past 2 years. So
Correct.
the past
I mean,
3
Cole's,
years,
Cole's been elite, but he has lost a little being
he's
in New
not.
York.
Cole's good. Cole's
And then
definitely a big name, big game pitcher.
And then Cortez overperformed either overperformed the last 2 years, or we're finally seeing his true what pitcher he is.
It's just Scherzer and Verlander are very big game pitchers.
They are. The
Yes, I
one
know they're
thing-
older.
Older. Scherzer did deal with a little bit of injuries last year. Verlander's a robot. He's not human
Yeah,
at
he
all.
fucking
Him
won
and
a Cy
DeGrom-
Young.
Him and DeGrom are from another planet. I don't know which one, but they're from a planet. They're from the same planet as Michael Jordan, LeBron. They're just Messi, Mbappe. They're all from the same world.
The Rangers
being shipped
could
here.
have had the best 1-2 combo in the league.
Yeah,
Could have.
could have.
Shoulda, woulda, coulda.
Yep. Well, if your aunt had nuts, she'd be your dad, or what was it? No, he'd
Whatever
be your
that saying
uncle.
is.
If my aunt had a dick, she'd be my uncle.
That's what it was. I fucked it all up. I was so way off.
But
Damn it.
good move for the Yankees. Carlos, I think, will do well
Mhm.
in New York. He'll do well in that stadium. Good for him getting that long-term contract. And from what I've been told, it was a little bit of a bidding war, which is good for him. But I think that's been the market all year for everybody.
Yeah, oh yeah.
It's just been
Some of the owners are really making their moves. They're making their splash.
they really are. I mean, the Mets, when you include luxury tax, are up to $435 million in payroll this year.
Yeah, that's spending some money.
And if this is the crazy part, if Steve Cohen got 3% residual interest on his current funds, 3% of what he's worth right now, that's more than what the Mets are spending this year. That nuts.
I mean, it's
A lot of
wild.
dope.
Yeah.
Another signing that happened today. I think it's a little bit of a steal. Brandon Drury to the Los Angeles Angels. 2 years, $17 million over 2 years. Silver Slugger last year.
Yeah. That's good. They're doing something, but they need pitching. You can get
They
all
do
the
need
bats in the
pitching.
world.
They do. But my question is, does 17 over 2 seem a little low for him?
Is that his first time in free agency?
Good question. I mean, he's bounced around.
I mean, how
quite a
old
bit.
is he?
Brandon Drury is 30.
Like
He's
2
30.
years isn't very much.
And no, it's definitely not his first year of free agency.
Keep going. Bruce is at the door.
He's been in the league since 2015. So, but I understand he's never really been that great. But when you look at the money that people have put on other players, Bellinger, and things like that, and you're looking at what people are paying for people of similar numbers in the last year, with the contracts that are being thrown around, it does seem that $8.5 million might be a little low for what he could. If he performs, it's a steal.
Yeah, but
If he has,
I kind of agree with you guys. Still talking about
yeah,
okay, because I saw the comment here. It's like he's never really been that great. He had a breakout year. So I mean, I don't know enough about this guy, so I can't sit here and go, off on this. But I mean, I'm kind of questioning it because you've already got at least two people right out the gate talking about, and then third person actually. Is he good? Is he that good? He's mediocre. I don't know. Maybe we just saw one good year, And I
That's
hope to God,
possible.
I'm sure he will go out and perform. But it could
possible.
be,
I mean, he hit 274 in 21, 263 in 22. After kind of struggling up until that point. You look at 28 home runs last year. So a big bump up there. 87 RBIs last year. I don't know. It just seems like the contracts are kind of all over the place this year.
Yeah, no, I know. And you've seen some that's like, wow, I can't believe we did that. And then you see some where you're like, well, maybe he should have got more. Those kind of things. I get it. I just don't know enough about him.
Like I said, if he performs, it's a steal. So getting a Silver Slugger for 8.5 a year is a steal, regardless if it's a breakout season or not.
Right.
That's still hardware that you can hang your hat on, and it's immediate hardware, as in it happened last year.
Yeah.
The Cody Bellinger thing's a whole different discussion. We had this topic 2 podcasts ago, but when he signed with the Cubs, but if you're talking about Bellinger having a way higher ceiling, you have to acknowledge he also has a ridiculously lower floor, considering what we've seen immediately from him. So it's two sides of really the same coin. It's just, one has really good hardware from a few years ago and then fell off the face of the earth. One really hasn't been on the face of the earth and then showed up last year.
Yeah. I mean,
And you look at Drury last year too. It's kind of a tale of two seasons. He played pretty well in Cincinnati for the first 2/3 of the year, and then he goes to San Diego and struggles a little bit. You know, batting average is 40 points lower for the time that he spent in San Diego. So I'm sure that was probably a piece of the pie as well.
I mean, you're also looking at a third of the at bats too.
That's true. That's true, but still,
it's a small
I mean-
sample size. I mean, it's a team-friendly contract. It's kind of like, you know, when you get somebody that's got a few years of, say, arbitration. We don't know.
Yeah.
You know, they're going to buy it out, so this could be that buyout.
I mean, he's been in the league since 2015, so he's been around.
Yeah, but just because you've been around doesn't mean he's been up every year, or, you know.
He spent time every year in the league. 2018 he did not spend as much time, but every other year he's been up pretty much year round. 2018 was the 1 year. In 2015 when he was called up, obviously.
Oh yeah.
But
yeah. And looking at
Just
these
throwing it
numbers,
up.
I really don't. It makes more sense. I mean, up until last year, he didn't have a season with more than. He had 2 seasons with more than 100 at bats. 3 seasons. I'm sorry, but
I mean, it's
20 and 21, he had less than 100.
It's 100%, you know, a good contract for him. It's just, for me, it's interesting to see what people are willing to pay for someone. Again, I'll use the Bellinger example, who's just been below the floor the last 2.5 years.
He was a Silver Slugger last year.
Yeah,
Tough year at third base.
he was silver slugger. I mean,
Your silver slugging percentage has nothing to do with your fielding percentage.
that's true. The Padres do replace him though. If you're talking about bats, they got Matt Carpenter.
Awesome fucking dude.
Does he keep the stash or does he grow out the beard out there?
He already shaved the stash, I'm pretty sure. I trained with him. That's weird. Now I feel like that's the question they ask on Mike or on The Office when they were like, "Does Stanley have a mustache?"
Well, does he?
He does.
The Mets have re-signed Adam Ottavino, rebolstering that bullpen as well. Other than that, the other big guy, the San Diego Padres also got Seth Lugo, which is a good contract, a good rotation arm for them over there as well. Brantley back to the Houston Astros. Drew Smiley to the Cubs. JD Martinez off to the Dodgers, 1 year, $10 million. DH over there, full DH for the Dodgers.
Let's just stay here for 1 second.
Yep.
One awesome teammate. Love that dude. He was cool to be around. Very smart too. Works hard on his craft. But the fuck is Boston doing?
Have you seen the laundry list of players over the last 2 or 3 years that they could have had on this team if they'd have kept them all together?
Yes, I want to talk about Boston in a minute because that's another.
It's like
thing.
an all-star team.
It is. I think there's a legitimate reason why. And it's not a great reason for Boston fans, but it's understandable from an ownership point of view. But I want to come back to that because I want to talk real quick about the rest of the signings because we're going to go off on a tangent on that reason.
Well, just do it. Who cares? Because we still got to cover it. We're just talking.
Sure, let's do it. So, a lot of people don't know that Boston Red Sox are owned by the Fenway Sports Group, which is they own a variety of different sports teams.
Can you hear that?
No.
Bro, he is sawing
snoring up a storm?
logs. I mean, it's because he just got wore out. He's been running around the house.
But not only so they are, I believe they're trying to sell Liverpool is the team that they're trying to sell. They own them. They're trying to step back in ownership there. They are teaming up with LeBron James and have reportedly already received the go-ahead from the NBA to buy an NBA expansion team in Las Vegas for over $4 billion.
So there's got to be 2 teams though.
There's another team that's still in the bidding process. But the Vegas team is all but going to the Fenway Sports Group. And LeBron, which makes it interesting does that mean LeBron's going there or how's that work? But either way, we're still looking at a price tag of $4 billion plus a stadium, plus establishing a team the question you have to ask yourself is, how important is the Red Sox to that ownership group right now? And I say that's a tough thing for Red Sox fans to hear, but from a business standpoint, the way you run a successful business is you only put X amount of money into a business, and that's the money that business has. Not everyone operates like the way Steve Cohen does, the Guggenheim Group does, or anything like that, where they're willing to put more money into it. You're trying to buy an expansion franchise for over $4 billion and build a stadium, or at least lease a stadium in conjunction with the T-Mobile Arena. So
Fuck. I accidentally hit the wrong thing.
you're fine. I got it.
Every dollar counts in that case, I guess. Then
So that's my question then. Do you think that has anything to do with them letting Bogarts go, letting JD Martinez go? They're probably going to let Devers go as well, because he's going to be asking ridiculous. You know, he'll get more than Bogarts got, most likely, or right up there. And he's young. All these other guys go, because you don't just decide to buy a franchise overnight. It's not like this woke up last year like, oh, let's spend $4 billion on an NBA team that we'll need to get stadium rights for, that we're going to need to, you know, get a full staff for, that we're going to need to establish. So that's a question I have, and I'd love to open it for you guys. But the question is here, and I understand what Death Matchin is saying. It's one thing to already own multiple sports franchises. It's another thing to be in the process of buying one.
well, then too, you said an expansion team. So what does that $4 billion include? Like, is that just for the rights to the team, or is that everything wrapped up all together, total startup cost?
That's the rights for the team.
See, now we're
Because-
talking about a
because-
totally different thing.
Because here's the thing: you're talking about you're talking about one of the most lucrative markets outside of a major city in the States.
Mhm.
I can't tell if Derek's frozen now or just staring at.
I'm
you know, he's-
staring. I was trying to figure this
But-
thing out. Sorry.
But my thing, you're talking about one of the most lucrative markets in the United States. You will have guaranteed ticket sales in Vegas just from the casinos alone. You're gonna have guaranteed viewership just from the casinos in Vegas. You're gonna get some of the best sponsorship deals because of the casinos in Vegas. You're gonna have a passionate local fan base. Look what happened with the Knights already. And it's the NBA. You know, your marketing rights, your media rights are phenomenal. So $4 billion, what the Suns are selling for $4 billion now, you're gonna have to wonder if that price tag creeps up a little bit.
Well, not only that, too, we're talking about building something from scratch, which is always going to be more costly than buying something that's already existing. Because now it's from an organizational standpoint. Because when you purchase an organization, you've already got people, you've already got processes, you've already got some of these things in place. So you're not going to keep all of them, but the bones and the foundation are still there. When you take it from the beginning, now it just costs money just to figure out how you're going to do things, who you're going to have, how it's going to work, what you're going to do, what's your direction, all of this time costs money. You're spending time talking about this stuff, paying people a lot of money. Maybe you're hiring research firms to do this, that, and the other. I mean, these are things that, and then there's unforeseen costs. Who knows what's going to pop up here, what's going to pop up there. These are things that are not cheap. The whole situation.
Correct.
So, I mean, end cost here. What are we talking? It's a lot of money.
$5 billion,
I can't even
6 billion.
Probably.
Well, it depends. If they use the T-Mobile Center, then it's probably a lot lower because then you're not building an arena. You're just
That's
talking
true.
about leasing rights.
Yeah, that's a big cost.
But
saving.
on the flip side, though, that T-Mobile Arena is used a lot. It's Vegas.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
you got to work around a lot of events. We're talking about basketball. We're talking about Saturday nights.
No
There's a
basketball.
lot
there.
of
And then it comes into the question of how much the casinos get involved. How much does the NBA let the casinos get involved? Although the NBA does own Fanatics, and Fanatics is starting their own draft book. So, I mean, that probably answers that question there.
but does that hurt or help?
I don't know. It depends who that partnership's with.
Right.
I mean, and yeah, I mean, it's brought in the chat. It's true. The Dodgers own the Guggenheim Group, the ownership group of the Dodgers, owns Chelsea in the Premier League. They bought that for $4 billion. You've heard the Wrigley, not Wrigley, the Ricketts family owns other sports franchises as well. But you do have to ask yourself again what the capital looks like, and again, what's the priority for the ownership base at that point in time.
Right. How many of those groups?
What's priority right now? Is priority establishing yourself in an extremely lucrative market, which is the NBA? But then the other question is, if you're willing to spend $4 billion, what's a few $100 million to save a player?
That's true, but it may seem like a drop in the bucket. But $100 million saved here is $100 million to spend on some of those ancillary costs we talked about before, or something else we haven't even mentioned. So, it seems, I think, on the surface like all of these organizations just piss money, but best believe that there's a CFO and a whole board somewhere that's looking at every single thing that they do, and every few $1 million they're going to say, well, why'd you put that here? How come we could have used that over here, and now this piece isn't working out because we spent that money over here? So how can you explain that? I mean, these things are heavily scrutinized in the business world, so it's not outside of the realm of possibility that these business decisions for the Boston Red Sox absolutely affect everything that they're doing with this expansion team and every other piece that they own as well.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, it makes sense to be diversifying if you're really looking for, a Premier League team, as the Dodgers have done, the Cubs, which is Manchester United. You're talking about two very high-profile money printing machines over there. When you look at an NBA team, that's a money printing machine as well. For the Fenway Sports Group, the NBA makes money hand over fist, and it's not even close. They're one of the best in the business when it comes to making money. So diversification is inevitable, but that's where you kind of do have to ask yourself, like we've been saying, is how much does it affect? How much are the Red Sox and Fenway being prioritized when you're trying to buy an expansion team?
Probably not as much, because that's one of the most loyal fan bases that there is.
Correct.
In all of professional sports. So you don't have to sell it to those fans right now.
With the Cubs.
Exactly. Maybe you're going to mortgage a couple of years of success, and catch a little bit of heat from your fan base, but those fans aren't going anywhere. They're still going to go to Red Sox games. They're just going to get louder, and that's fine.
And on top of that, now you're looking at, once that team gets established, you get more money pouring in. Where does that money go? Does it go back into their pockets? Does it go? Do they diversify and send some to the Red Sox and give them more money to spend? Because basketball contracts are ridiculous, but you're talking about fielding a team of 16?
Yeah, it's way less.
So, but the money printing is the same as the MLB, if not better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with that 100%. I mean, just from a merchandising standpoint, the NBA is a juggernaut.
Exactly. So, I mean, that's one of the things there that I think people have to think about, but it's also not fully public knowledge that this is happening. Like, I didn't know about this until a few days ago. My bigger question is, how does that work with LeBron James? Does that indicate he's trying to retire?
What if he goes there and plays for the first year, kind of like Michael Jordan and the Washington Wizards?
Can't, like...
Probably, well, is LeBron already a part of this organization?
Yes.
He's already a stakeholder.
Correct.
Some kind. Okay.
Correct.
Well, it's interesting then. I feel like that would present some kind of a conflict of interest.
He's been part of that. I don't know how that works, though. I don't know if the NBA has looser terms with that. I don't know if, can you tamper with yourself?
Yeah, I mean, we've had player managers and things like that before, but this is a whole nother level when you're talking about from a standpoint of actually owning part of the team that you play for. I don't know how that would shake out. I feel like legally there's just, and by no means am I a fucking attorney, but I just feel like there's a ton of red tape that one would have to cut through to make something like that work, even if it were ever possible, which is a whole nother question.
No, yeah, I mean, either way, it works. It's just for me, it's a good question to ask. I don't know how that works. I don't know, if does that, is he allowed to not be part of it? Is he allowed to not market it? Can he not play for a different team? Does he have to get out of his own contract with the Lakers? Like, what goes on there and how does that work? That's a whole big thing.
Yeah, it's a great question, and I would like to see how this develops moving forward. Well, when is this expansion team supposed to be a thing?
I want to say saw the date and I forget it now. I think, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's pre 2030. But again, I don't know. I don't know if there's I'm not sure if there's a firm date yet as to when they want him in the league.
Yeah, I mean, LeBron probably doesn't have more than a few seasons left in him anyway, so I mean, maybe that timeline lines up. He's got all the money in the world. He doesn't need to play from a.
What about his son?
What about him?
Like, does that cause issues? Does that bring up, questions of that kind of thing?
I don't think so. Not as much. I mean, I suppose it could. They took him like first overall and he was terrible or something like that. But I think that there would be. I don't know. No, I really don't think that that's an issue. Quite honestly, well, we've seen players with kids in their organizations before.
So someone just brought up in the chat. They're looking at 2025.
Okay. I don't know. I think that timeline probably lines up with LeBron leaving the game and moving into this capacity.
Yeah.
And who knows how much he's even going to have involved with the actual team. Is he going to have some kind of an executive role with the team? I would assume he probably would. Or is he just going to be a silent owner?
Hey, Dyer.
Yes?
I want to introduce one person that just joined with us right now. He's going to join us for tonight's show. And maybe going forward, we'll see, but see if he's into it. It's the great Mike Bassick is with us.
Hello. Can you hear me?
We can.
Bassick.
We can.
Can you see me?
No,
We
you
cannot.
got to click it again. It turned off, I think, when I brought you in here.
Let's see.
There it is. Yes.
There it is. There
Everybody,
it is.
we got Mike Bassick to join us right now.
And somewhere in the Twitter, somewhere in the editor hemisphere, our editor is banging his head into his desk going, why?
Get another guy.
Another person to edit. Why? But welcome.
Mike, this
Thank
is,
you.
we call this the podcast is called Off the Fair Pull. And
Still a
literally,
foul pole.
yeah. And literally, it's just, like I was saying on the phone a second ago, it's random. We talk about mainly sports. We get, our opinions going against each other and kind of just all over the place. So it's like a little bit similar to how it is on the radio, except you have a lot more freedom in here for the most part. I mean, the common sense stuff. But Terps runs the show with us. You haven't met him yet. He's one of my good friends. He came down from my foundation. And he also is the guy that really comes up with all our topics and kind of just leads the show, is the best way to put it. And then Dyer, Kyle's his real name. Sorry. David is Terps' real name. Kyle, we call him Dyer Time. He's my best friend from back home. We played high school ball together. He was my first baseman, grew up together, and he's back in my hometown.
Awesome.
So welcome aboard.
in the cold part of Ohio.
We're gonna get it though. I'm gonna bring you this headset. Your kids are gonna love it, but it'll be something that you can plug into your computer, so you'll sound a lot clearer.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Good.
But
I
you're
want to sound better.
yes.
But let's throw him right into the fire.
Well, hold
And-
on. Before he does that too, like just to give you an idea, I know you guys don't really use your Twitch at the station, I guess. Like you don't really get on it, but we leave ours up just like the radio station, and then we just sometimes you'll respond to some of the stuff that's said in there because they might bring something up. So if you want, don't worry about it. I know we can easily relay everything, but that's kind of how it is. I just want to give you an idea of what we do so you know, so that way if you do decide you want to be a part of this and help out with us, since we can never get choppy, we definitely want to show you everything. We know you are definitely the guy too. You'll fit right in here.
Good. Let's not talk about the Mavs. They drove me insane right now.
We won't. We actually don't really talk much Mavs.
we leave that for you and Derek.
Yeah, they leave that for us.
Well, you can just mention real quick that Mike Bassick was a part of the game that is, in my opinion, the best comeback game in the history of Major League Baseball.
Somebody had to do it. Somebody had to give up 14 runs.
Hey,
Yes.
Wait, you gave up 14 runs?
No, but I was part of giving up 14 runs. So my first ever game in the major leagues was for the Cleveland Indians, and I relieved Dave Burba, who had given up 4 runs in 2 innings and had the bases loaded and nobody out in the 3rd inning. And at the end of that inning, it was 12-0, Derek.
God, I've been.
I did get 3 outs in the inning, but they had scored 8 runs before the 3rd out was recorded. And then they scored the Seattle Mariners, who at the time, literally, like their record was like 90-25 or something. It was 14-2 after 5. And then I say we, the Cleveland Indians, us, tied it up at 14 in the bottom of the 9th inning. And then in the 10th inning, scored a run to win 15-14, which tied 2 other games in Major League history as the greatest comeback in Major League history.
Well, I do want to throw out Dyer is a diehard Indians fan, and obviously the Browns. We share a little bit of love. He does, which I know you like to troll me with it, but he does love Ohio State too. So. No, every time my brother would play golf, he'd be like, "Don't forget to dot the I." He'd be yelling it to Greg, "Dot the I."
OH.
And then no, don't do that. Don't do that, Mike. And then Terps is a huge Mets fan, diehard Mets fan, which is cool because you've played for both teams. So
Yeah, I apologize.
wanted to share
both
that.
of you.
But yeah, I had to at least share that. Now we can go ahead and dive back in. We've got Mike in here. Let's get some let's have some fun with that.
So, I mean, what we were talking about to catch you both up, because obviously, Derek, you were on the phone. The recent slip with the Red Sox, what's going on over there, letting people go. What a lot of people don't know about is that the Fenway Sports Group is in the process of buying an NBA expansion team in Las Vegas, an asking price of over $4 billion, partnering with LeBron on that venture. Dyer and I, we've come to the conclusion, as you know, unprofessional as we are, that $4 billion is not going to be the only cost they're spending on that team to get that up and running. They've already sold Liverpool, or in the process of selling Liverpool to get some of that money. In your guys' opinion, do you see that having an effect? I mean, we've kind of seen that a little bit with the Dodgers and the Guggenheim Group when they went after Chelsea. We saw that a little bit with the Cubs when they went after Manchester United, both of which were over $4 billion purchases. And now we're seeing a similar trend with the Red Sox a little bit. You guys see that as maybe a reason that we're seeing some of these Red Sox kind of back up a little bit on the spending train? Because $4 billion is $4 billion.
Well, the only thing I can say, and I know Mike's probably going to have something he could even say to this too. I don't know how well this compares with it, but the Rangers and the Stars, and I forget their soccer team that the Hicks owned, they were taking money from each team to pay the players, and they screwed it all up, and that's why they had to get rid of this. I think they kept the soccer team, but they had to get rid of the Stars and the Rangers, and that's why we had new ownership come in and buy us out. I'm wondering if that's the same situation that's going on up there, and that's why they're kind of having to. You're seeing guys be let go because it's like, well, we can't really spend this money because we put money into this team and we put money into this team. So I don't know if, I feel like that's the thing that's going on. I could be wrong, but that was my side of it. It doesn't look good, that's for sure.
Well, I'll say this, whatever you can do to buy a sports team, especially I would say in the 3 major sports in North America, you do it, because the Phoenix Suns just sold today for $4 billion.
Yep.
And
Jesus.
I believe Sarver bought it for under $1 billion in 2004. So if you think about 18 years later, you make approximately $3 billion on your investment, while, I think Derek would agree with me on this, while you were making probably 9 figures a year on the team already. So, I mean, it's not like, the owners lie their asses off on stuff like this. I mean, the baseball owners like, oh my God, we're going broke. And then you see this off season, you're like, literally last year you said you can't afford to do this anymore. You get a collective bargaining agreement in place for a while, and you're like, all right, Jacob deGrom, which I'm happy he's here in Texas, but hey, here's $45 million a year. Here's $40 million a year for this guy. Here's $37 million a year for that guy. They have all the money in the world. They're making all the money in the world. It's an unbelievable investment, but to your point, maybe you have to spend a little bit less on players in the initial buy so that you can get another franchise.
This franchise is from scratch. You're talking, unless they partner with T-Mobile Arena, you're talking no arena, no staff, no players, nothing. So now you're also spending money on marketing. You're going to spend money on arena rights. You're going to spend money on all of this other stuff on top of the 4. It's not like you're going and buying an existing franchise.
When you say you're spending money,
James.
I was gonna say, you say spending money on the advertising and stuff. They're the ones paying you though for that.
Correct, but you still have to cater to them, and then it comes into
Right.
you building a whole new stadium.
But you're getting that much more money from
You're
them,
getting
though.
that money back, correct? But you still have to do the initial investment to get that.
Well, yeah.
Won't Las Vegas, won't the city give the money though?
I don't know. I mean, I'm sure they will. They got the casino money there. But again, it comes down to, do these owners want to be tied to Vegas, or do they want to be more independent owners?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
if a city's going to give you $1 billion to build a stadium, you
Correct.
take the $1 billion.
Unless they work it out with T-Mobile, which is another possibility. There is an arena there, but again, that arena is used all the time.
Yeah, and it matters with the suites and everything. Obviously, I can only speak about the Mavericks here. Mark Cuban has bought up property across the highway from where American Airlines Center is, and he doesn't like that he doesn't have complete ownership of that arena and really doesn't have majority ownership. So he's going to build himself another arena.
And you know why he's going to do that, though? Like, he wants to move because Ross Perot Jr. built all those freaking parking spots to put in front of it because they hate each other, clearly. So he had that land and built up so they can't even see the arena anymore, which I hate because I love driving in and seeing the arena. And now you got these stupid parking garages. Oh,
and the parking's
pisses me
horrible
off.
there too, and that was intentional. He kind of ruined it. So
I
dick
know,
move.
but dude, it's that's how you know you've got enough money that you can be like, oh, I hate this guy. Sorry, Mike, I'm going to build this wall around your house so nobody can see it.
Yeah.
That's some rich guy spiteful shit right there. Like, you know what? I hate you so much. I'm going to build 16 parking garages around your fucking arena so nobody can see it.
I mean,
It's true.
God, that's so ridiculous.
But I mean, like, you're talking about mega wealthy at this point. That's the thing I think baseball fans are going to have to realize is Steve Cohen's not going to be the wealthiest owner in baseball for long. There's going to be another big fish that comes across and will buy a team.
Elon Musk.
I said if Musk buys a team, that team's winning a championship inside of 5 years.
Can I just say that I hope Elon Musk buys the New York Yankees just so he can shut down the doors?
That ain't
Move 'em.
happening.
Just move them, pick them up, and go, no, we out.
You know,
I
he's
will
always
say
joking
this.
though. I'm going to buy Facebook and delete it. He always says stuff like that. Can he just buy the New York Yankees and delete them?
Money helps out a lot in sports, okay? Having an owner that is worth $50 billion instead of $5 billion, it does help out a lot. But from my perspective, especially in baseball, if you do not draft and if you do
Mhm.
not sign out of Latin America well, and you do not develop a team in the minor leagues, players that can help win at the major league level, I don't know if you have enough money / chemistry to really have a championship team. I think a lot of people talk about the 97 Marlins as that was a bought team or a bought championship because then they sold off a lot of the pieces after they won the championship in 97 against the Cleveland Indians. But then when you look at their middle infield, Edgar Renteria was a 19-year-old middle infielder that they developed. Luis Castillo, I believe, was their second baseman, who was a very young developed player. Jeff Conine had been there for a while, who was developed. Their catcher was Charles Johnson, who was a developed catcher by their organization. So I hope Steve Cohen does create a very good team in New York, and I'm a Mets fan. My kids' two favorite players, one of them is Francisco Lindor, my other boy's favorite player is Pete Alonso. So we're pretty big Mets fans at our house besides Rangers. At the same time, you do have to develop talent. I don't think you can buy 25 guys for a team.
But you could argue that having the money could allow you to develop in ways that other teams just don't have the resources to do.
Yeah.
You want to go out and you want to get the best training staff, or you want to go out and you want to get the best analytics department. You have the money to do that
100%.
in ways that some other teams just may not be able to do because you are basically a money printing machine and the dollar means virtually nothing to you at this point.
You know what's interesting is it seems like owners have this collusion within the organizations of don't do that, because we've talked about this on the radio show I'm on, is why wouldn't you go get the Braves second in command of pitching in their minor league system? Why wouldn't you go pluck somebody from the Rays? Why wouldn't you go pluck a couple people from the Dodgers? Why wouldn't you, if a great scout costs $150,000, and I'm making up a number, I have no clue how much it costs. Why wouldn't you just go pay that guy $250,000? If a great scouting director costs $300,000, why wouldn't you say, we'll give you $600,000 to come to our organization? And then you just get all the best minds that are doing this great around Major League Baseball to be in your organization. And it seems like teams just won't do that.
Well, why not even go get as far, like, I always get blown away with this. What about Oakland? Every year they develop some young kid. They've always got pitching, and they've always been known for pitching. Why wouldn't you want somebody from there too?
Illusion.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's where having ownership groups like the Guggenheim Group, having ownership like Steve Cohen, you could see a breaking of that mold, as just you get these guys who just don't care. Because these guys, these other owners tried to make it difficult on both of those, one group and then Cohen, saying we're going to raise luxury tax. They both said we don't care.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter to us. You try to add other restrictions. Like, okay, we'll just go around it. We don't care. So at what point do you see that mold starting to break? Is just as more and more money comes into the game, and as more and more wealthy people start taking an interest in baseball, because right now the wealth is really in soccer, and basketball, and hockey to some extent, with the Russian oligarchs and the Eastern European billionaires coming in and owning hockey teams. Baseball's if you look at the overall wealth of owners in baseball compared to the other major sports, it's not as high as soccer or the NBA by any means.
Yeah.
Well, I don't have a great answer for that, and I don't know why, because obviously I do not hang out with billionaires and know why they prefer those sports over, let's say, baseball, and then maybe they start generating more money in baseball. I wonder this, and I don't know this. I'll throw this out as a question. I wonder if they saw a major opportunity in basketball because how far behind they were financially from MLB, and now they're about on the same playing field. They both make about $10 to $12 billion a year. Baseball still makes a hair more, but not much. I wonder if these billionaires who maybe do like sports a little bit see an opportunity right now where baseball can grow more now than basketball could or can. I don't know. I'm throwing it out as a question.
I think, too, part of the reason why basketball is so big globally, a big chunk of that is China, right? I mean, let's talk about what really is, but China is a huge piece of the global market for basketball.
That's true. It's a
Yeah.
huge market. I mean,
I remember Mark Cuban doing the interview with Megyn Kelly, isn't that her name, who used to be on?
Yeah.
And she directly asked the question, and Mark Cuban kept getting irritated, and finally Mark broke and said, "Yeah, we're going to do business with China, so deal with it."
Well, you go
we're
where the money
taking their
is.
money.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're going to give you money. You go get the money, and I think soccer's the soccer reason is easy. It's international.
Exactly.
You're going to make more for Premier League, a good Premier League team than any team in the world, other than maybe the Yankees and the Cowboys might be able to say that they're able to get up there with them in terms of overall revenue year in, year out. But when you're talking about an international brand, we just had the most watched sporting event in the world just end. All those guys, FIFA is making money hand over fist. You got guys like Man City who's making money hand over fist just with players like Holland, who's going to take in millions of dollars on his jersey sales alone.
Derek,
Thanks, man.
You're welcome.
I was at the game, Derek, when you guys beat the Yankees to go to the World Series, and there must have not been any Argentinian women at the game because it seemed like most of the women for Argentina decided to take their shirts off.
Yes, they did.
Yeah, sorry about that, man. We were it was cold. it's a little cold out there. They would have had their high beams on if we would have done that.
Oh, that was funny. After the game, I was like, "What's going on?" I was
They were like, well, that's a bold country to do it in too.
"Oh, in Saudi Arabia, yeah,
In Qatar, yeah, no, that's
Sorry, yeah, Qatar."
have fun getting out of that stadium. But yeah, like I don't know.
I'm on board with it.
Same. Twitter was all over. Twitter was like, got it.
There were those girls that did that in Houston for the World Series like 3 or 4 years ago.
They were paid though, weren't they? Wasn't
Yeah,
that-
they were promoting a company or something like that.
and it worked.
Yeah.
It worked.
Basically what you're telling me, the only thing when it comes to the World Cup that's better than Twitter is Titter.
yes.
Cool. I'm on it.
Love it. I'll give you that one. You can have that one. Let's continue on with the signings real quick. Cubs get their big guy, Dansby Swanson, 7 years, $177 million over there. We now know why they passed up on some other guys. Thoughts on that, guys? I like it. I think it's good for them, but I'll let you guys give your thoughts on that.
Derek, you take that for now because you played against him and
Well,
everything.
he's got his headphones off.
Okay. I like it. He's become a better offensive player these last few years than what he had been. But I do think out of the 4 free agent shortstops, he was the one that could help you the most defensively, but help you the least offensively. So it'll be interesting. Chicago has a nice team, and obviously the Central right now is in flux. I get that St. Louis has a very nice team, but Milwaukee, they're okay. I'm not sure how good or great they're going to be next year. Obviously, Pittsburgh's always horrible, it feels like. So I just look at it and go, the Cubs can get above 500, I would say. But I don't know if that signing or their offseason makes me think that they could win 90 games and make the playoffs.
Yeah, because even with the expanded playoffs, to get past the NL East now, where I think it's a good possibility you have 3 teams in the NL East make the playoffs again this year. And then you got the Padres. Yeah, they would have to win. They'd have to win 90 plus. You have to at least hit 85. The 85 mark, I think.
Yeah. The East is a beast with Braves, Mets, Phillies. It's going to be tough. I mean, I hate that 2 of those teams, can't win their division because besides the Dodgers, I think we just named the 4 best teams in the National League.
Yeah. Yeah, it might be coming time for a reorganization soon.
Well, I heard Mike yell at me, so what did I miss?
Dansby Swanson to the Cubs. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, well, because Mike wasn't in here earlier, that could have been the Giants. With this whole issue that's coming up about Correa, again, Mike, we were talking about, we don't know exactly what it could be. I thought it was in my opinion, I felt like he had shoulder issues before, or maybe it was an elbow. And then I was talking about how some teams, when you sign with them, you may have no bad health issues, nothing. They still want to get an MRI on, could be your elbow, could be shoulder, whatever their choice. They want to look at certain ligaments on you. And that's probably what happened is they did something and they saw in Correa, and I feel like his shoulder or his elbow was the issue. I could have swore he got hurt from doing something like that, but I don't know. So that gives the red flag, which the Giants could have been in on Dansby. So I don't know. That's it. To me, it's a crazy move. It sucks for them, but happy for the Cubs and happy for Dansby. He's a pretty good player.
Let me tell you guys a story that you might not know, and Derek, you might not know because it was before your time with the Rangers. In 1999, I believe is the year, there's a relief pitcher named Jeff Zimmerman, and he's made the All-Star team. And the Rangers signed him to a new extension, like 4 years, $16 million, which was a lot of money for a setup guy in like 99, 2000. That's premium money for a setup guy. So they need to do all the tests. Make sure that, hey, we're giving you this contract. We just got to make sure and check your elbow, check your shoulder, make sure everything's okay. Well, they shoot dye into your elbow to just make sure everything looks right. The nurse misses and hits his tendon.
Oh.
Career over.
Oh my God.
Oh.
Never was able to pitch again. Had to rehab, tried, and so they gave him the money because it was their fault. They messed up. It wasn't him. He wasn't hurt, but the nurse or whoever it was sticking the needle in to shoot the dye in hit his tendon and ruptured the tendon, and that ended his career.
Damn.
Now she delivers potato chips for a living.
Yep, she got fired.
Yeah. And they avoided a lawsuit by paying him out.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, you have to at that point.
100%. I mean, but we've also seen big deals get overturned. I mean, the R.A. Dickey story, everyone knows that one. You know, you get signed first round, you go out there. Oh, by the way, you're missing a very important part of your elbow.
That's so crazy too that he was that
Good
way.
luck. Then he comes back and has the career he did. But we spoke about it earlier, but yeah, 13 years. Hopefully it's nothing, but if it is,
Gosh. But
Derek
I mean,
thinks-
I'm happy for
I
that.
think
though.
what, 50 million? If they find something that 50 million goes off that contract.
Oh yeah. So we said it was. You told me it was what 13,350, correct?
Yeah.
So I say, in my opinion, they'd keep him. You know, if they want to take the flyer on him, he's okay. They're gonna run with it, whatever. Let's say he does have to have Tommy John. All right, we'll go 13 years, and then we'll just take 50 million off of it. So it's 13 for 300.
Maybe 13,320.
No, it couldn't go. It has to be 350. I mean 300. Do you agree with that, Mike?
Is that already in the contract, or are you just saying, hey,
I'm
we're
just
gonna
hypothetically. We have to restructure it after knowing that we still want you. We still will do the years, but we're going to lower the money value because we know that there's going to be an injury that we have to resolve.
Oof.
Well, because the money's guaranteed either way, right? So the
100%.
years aren't really that big of a deal because all you're doing is opening up a roster spot. You got to pay him for 13 years either way.
Yeah, but it's cheaper. You're taking,
Well,
let's say
right.
he's making 40 million a year, something crazy. I'm just hypothetically, I know it's not that, but let's say that's what it is. Okay, well, we're missing 1 year of this because we know you have to have Tommy John, but we still want to keep you. We'd still have your, own your rights. And then here it is. Here's 13 years still, but we need to take that 1 year of pay basically down. So it needs to be
Right.
take 50 off.
But I'm agreeing with you, though. What I'm saying is something catastrophic happens in year 6 or even year 1. Either way, it doesn't matter. Or he plays out the whole contract. You're going to pay him either way.
Yes.
So you cut down that money because the years don't really matter at that point.
Yeah.
I will say the reason that I'm hesitant on just saying, hey, we'll take, 50 million off the contract is probably because I wasn't crazy about that deal for him because he's, to me, being here in Texas, I feel like every time he played the Astros before last year, before he went to Minnesota, I felt like 33% of the time he didn't play in the games because he was nicked up. Something was bugging him all the time. And it seemed like he would miss, I don't know, it felt like 40 to 60 games a year. And I might be off. I don't have his numbers pulled up. I was like, man, that's a lot of money for a dude who's injury prone. And then as soon as you come to an agreement, you do medicals and you're like, yeah, he might miss 162 games to start off this contract. And we love him at shortstop. And I would say that is, obviously besides pitcher and catcher, that is a pretty violent position to be having Tommy John surgery on. So I would I mean, I know that free agency's not over and done with, but a lot of the big names are gone, especially the shortstops are gone. Man, that would make me really nervous on a long-term contract with a guy who I think is already injury prone to throw that on top of what he deals with.
So 2017, he missed 42 games. 2018, he missed 36 games.
Okay.
2019, he missed 2 months with a cracked rib. 2020 is 2020, whatever.
But hold on. Did he miss time though? It's still maybe a shortened season, but
he got COVID, so I don't.
oh, okay.
He played in 58 games, though.
Yeah, that was
Yeah,
protocol.
never mind.
That's
Okay,
not. Yeah.
yeah, you're good.
Yeah. And in 21, he only missed because of health and safety protocol. In 21,
Okay.
so 22, there's nothing out. I don't see anything for this season yet. But you're
Okay.
still talking about, you're right, injury history. And 2017, it was a torn thumb ligament. 2018, it was back problems. 2019, it was back rib problems. So
I think it's worth noting that that it's been said at this point that the issue is not a back issue.
okay, and he did miss some time this year with the Twins for a thumb injury again.
But you're also right too. That I mean, we're talking about 19, 18, 17, 15, where the most games he played was 110 in a season. mean, that's-
Yeah, I'm with Mike.
That's a problem.
That's a lot of money to be giving somebody who hasn't. When was his first? I guess we could say full season, because not many guys are like Cal Ripken and play year in and year out.
Well, what are you defining as a full season? How many
145.
145.
21. But he played 136 last year, so it's not like he's that far off.
Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe those issues are behind him.
Well, hold on. What do
Maybe
you guys
they're
consider
not.
a full season for a position player?
I consider that a pretty full season.
Oh, yeah,
136,
136, 135. Because I mean,
No, that's what I'm saying. I'm curious because they get days off. Like, it'll randomly just, here we go.
yeah, you figure days off plus, you're playing shortstop. You're probably a 10-day IL stint is not unheard of here and there. Just wear and tear on the position. I mean, I would say 135, 136 in today's era of baseball would probably be reasonable to be considered as a full season. I mean, 2018 he played 110 games. 2019 he played 75 games. 2017 he played 109 games. 2016 he played 153.
That's
and
good.
2015 is when he came up, so that's not a full season.
I don't know. That's risky. I know he's pretty good when he's out there, but
He's a good player.
you got to be out there though.
Well, the other thing you got to consider, though, too, all those years that he played in Houston, the amount of protection that he had in that lineup, you still got to go out there and hit the ball. But, I mean,
And the help he received.
exactly. I mean, well, that too. And you're playing in a ballpark that is fucking tiny and weird.
Yeah.
So, I
Who's
don't
the
know.
guy, Derek, in that lineup that you guys said can't beat you in the 7th, 8th, 9th inning? I know that was a deep lineup. Obviously, Springer was there. He's now with Toronto. Who was the guy that it was like, hey, 7th inning, you gotta, if we have to pitch around him to pitch to the next guy, we're doing it.
Man, well, I know when you would face him, it depends on the pitcher. I think it was Evan Gattis for the right-handers, definitely not with lefties. I don't know who else it would have been. Maybe Castro. He might have been up there. I'm trying to think of their teams. Yeah.
Well, they had, Altuve, Springer, Correa, Michael Brantley, Bregman got there in 17.
As long as
Well,
Reddick
I
in
wasn't.
there.
I never got to see him. I was in the National League pretty much.
All right.
I mean, if you're the Giants, you're trying to avoid another Anthony Rendon situation, really, at this point.
Oh,
Yeah, you
boy.
don't. Yeah.
That's a
Man,
bad
that
one.
that sucks because he's such a good player too.
Really,
He's
his
had
only
terrible luck.
full season was 2020.
Yeah,
The
that's
Angels have
that's
been
signing.
the worst lucked free agent team in the last, 8 years, ever since pretty much Mike Trout in 2012. Like, even you look at Albert Pujols, and I know that he's one of the greatest hitters of all time, but I mean, his career changed from St. Louis to LA. He wasn't, because of plantar fasciitis and stuff like that, he just wasn't as good with LA as he was with St. Louis.
Yeah.
People are saying Mike Napoli situation. What happened to Mike Napoli?
He missed some time in 2015, and he missed time 2011, 2012, but still over 100 games both those years.
He was a
114
catcher
games
too.
in 09, 108 games in 2012, 113 games in 2011. But if you want to talk about the definition of a wear and tear position,
Yeah, he was the catcher.
it's catcher.
Yeah.
You're gonna It's not if you have knee surgery, it's when in that position. But yeah, I could see that being a concern. I guess the other interesting signing I want to talk about, Benintendi to the White Sox, 5 years, $75 million.
I'm confused by the White Sox.
Yeah, what the fuck
You
are
and
they
everybody
doing?
else.
Like, I don't know what's going on with them.
It's the
It doesn't make sense with letting Abreu go, but then like, hey, let's go spend $75 million. Like, what are we doing? Are we kind of taking a step back, or are we going for it? I thought the White Sox were going to be a great team last year. I was wrong. And I do think, I'm not blaming it all on the manager. The players have way more, but I think La Russa he's gone.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. It's
I mean, I know he's
you
gone.
can
He's
you can
not-
say it. I know what you want to say. He's like Joe Biden. He just looks lost out there. Go ahead.
Yeah, he lost it. Like, he wasn't. He couldn't follow the game anymore. The game was moving too fast. He's a Hall of Fame manager. I'm not taking his career away from him, what he did in Oakland and St. Louis and other places, but he was totally and completely gone, and he led that team awry, and it sounded like a lot of the players were kind of like, dude, this is just not good. And then they didn't play well either. And so I thought Luis Robert was going to be a great player last year. It just nothing ever really super clicked for him. I've seen him up close in person. That dude looks like everything you want. He looks like, I won't say exactly like Mike Trout, but he looks like, oh my God, like an intimidating looking guy. But it just everything hasn't come together for him. And now Eloy Jimenez gets hurt all the time. So I don't know. The White Sox, to me, I'm not betting on them anymore.
Well, I think the big thing with La Russa that didn't fit in there is you're talking about a team of young guys who are very verbally outspoken, very new school kind of baseball. Got Tim Anderson, who's just out here making, having the time of his life, Bray having the time of his life. You got young guys who are flashy, who want to show off, and then La Russa's over here going, we benched a guy because, he showboated after hitting a home run when we were.
Well,
when we
fuck,
were
he made somebody take, or what was it? He
He
intentionally
basically-
walked somebody twice with 2 strikes.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, I've never seen, like, you got 2 strikes. This dude's battling now. Like, not many guys, period, have great numbers when they get 2 strikes. There might be like 3 in the entire league. I'm just throwing it out there, obviously. I just don't get it too. Like Mike said too, you signed Benintendi for whatever, $70 million. You let your key player who hasn't played with another organization and wants to be in Chicago, you let him walk. And you still want to be a contender, I guess. I don't know what that was all about. That makes 0 sense.
Speaking of Chicago,
I
sorry,
was
go
going
ahead,
to say
Dax.
you take a guy like Yerman Mercedes too, and crush his spirit to the point that he
Ran him out
leaves
of
the
baseball.
game
Yeah.
after being one of the most fun stories of the first month and a half, 2 months of that season.
Dude, he was like the guy.
And because he pimped a home run off of a position player, you bury his ass. Give me a break. And that team with that manager was oil and water and a bad situation from the start.
Well, it didn't make sense. They could pimp a home run any other time, and you were all for him, showboating, acting however, which it didn't bother me. But it's like you get upset about that, and then your one guy pimps a home run off of a position player, and your butt hurt. That makes 0 sense. Like,
And you drag him through the media.
yeah, like
It's not
why?
even something you handle behind closed doors. You go out in the media, you go, that's not us. That's not how you act in
Did not
baseball.
have
And
that
at the same
clubhouse.
time he's doing that, MLB is playing to let the kids play ad every 5 minutes in a
Yep.
baseball game.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
So it's like, pick one or the other. But speaking of Chicago, I want to get Mike's view on this because we got our views on it last time, Derek and Dyer. But the whole Wilson Contreras thing, have you followed that storyline at all?
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Give it to me.
So Wilson Contreras obviously signed in the offseason with the St. Louis Cardinals. He penned an article in The Athletic after the signing, basically saying that when he was with the Cubs, still with the Cubs, he saw Albert Pujols hit a home run and said that he wished he was with an organization that had that kind of tradition and that kind of fan base behind them, and always wanted to be a Cardinal after seeing that happen. This is after, of course, the whole situation with him not wanting to leave the Cubs, being the Cubs' kind of fan favorite, one of the last few holdovers from the World Series, and now you're penning that kind of article. Of course, Derek did bring up the good point of buttering up the St. Louis Cardinals fans, but as a former player, if you see a teammate do that and go to a rival team and then publicly pen an article saying, hey, when I was still playing with you guys, I wanted to play for your rival, what's your kind of line of thought there?
That's not the best look. Time will heal things there because the Chicago Cubs are going to celebrate that World Series for a long time with, coming back and being like, hey, we'll give you thousands of bucks for an autograph signing, an appearance here, and doing all those things. And so, right now, obviously that isn't, going to happen, and he's still playing and everything like that. So that wasn't the best look. And at some point, we'll get a little bit older and realize even if I thought that at the time, I shouldn't have said it or wrote about it. Because I feel like the Cubs fans are pretty good fans. I mean, the Cardinals, that is a special place. I never played for the Cardinals, just playing against them. It was just an unbelievably great atmosphere. The fans are very educated about the game. The Cubs is a little bit more of, Derek, you can correct me if you feel different, kind of a little bit more of a party environment than like we're really engaged in the game environment. But yeah, you shouldn't say things like that.
But you're still talking about one of the most loyal fan bases in sports, though, in Chicago.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, those guys went through thick and thin to get, what was it, 110 years? What was it?
I think it
I
is.
don't know. I
And
just
then-
remember Back to the Future almost got it right.
Yeah, right. They all by 1 year.
1 year.
One year.
But it's, I mean, yeah, that fan base is amazing. They are into the game 1 through 9 for the most part. Yes, there's party going on too, but they're very passionate into the game. Just like Boston. Boston is the exact same way. They're in the game. They sell out every single game. I mean, it's hard to find tickets for both the Cubs and the Red Sox. The Cardinals are the same way. I don't know if they necessarily sell out every game, but it is an unbelievable environment to play in front of. That's a baseball city.
I think the big thing with the Contreras thing is it offers a little bit of a look into the lives of players that people don't see very often. I think the Athletics done a good job of letting players from multiple sports write articles and post it. But by the same token, yeah, as a Cubs fan, that would ruffle my feathers. You're talking about not just going to another team, but your rival, your peak rival of all.
Well,
teams.
we had it here in Texas, and Derek was a part of the team, and it was Josh Hamilton signed with the Angels and kind of said Texas isn't a baseball town. And look, it is a football town. It's way more of a football town than a baseball town. But, the Ranger fans got upset because they wanted him to stay, and they definitely didn't want him to sign with a division rival. And so, Josh Hamilton really wore it, especially the first game back. I believe Derek was opening day pitcher that day. So,
who struck him out his first at bat back? This guy.
Woo!
And I remember the crowd went crazy for that. I was at the game, and it was an awesome moment as a Ranger fan. At the same time, if Josh Hamilton and his wife at the time wouldn't have said what they said and just said, hey, we loved our time here, is just, obviously financially there was a great offer on the table. We think the Angels have a great organization, and we loved every second of our time in Texas. And we love what Texas did for our career and the help that they gave me to be successful at Major League Baseball. Then he probably gets I don't know if a standing ovation, but, it's not really we got to get Josh Hamilton out, that SOB, and all that stuff that happened. So
I mean, I had a lot of text messages the night before I started to hit him. Not text messages, I should say. And all I cared was, man, you better get him out, because if he hits a homer off you,
Oh,
wow.
yeah, no, you're done.
From teammates or from fans?
From fans, not from teammates.
Okay.
No, not teammates. All they cared about was get him out.
Yeah,
Don't let him get on base.
I think though this is showing just the world of social media and open journalism in terms of sports is changing a lot, and I think that's something that we're seeing more and more athletes have to evolve into. Derek, I mean, you went from basically little social media and being ostracized for doing essentially social media to now we're seeing do social media, get your brand out there, establish a brand, stream on Twitch, be interactive on Twitter, grow your Instagram brand as being more of a marketing push and more of a push in general. And I think as more and more and more that happens, we're going to see more and more and more stuff like this come out, where people like Wilson are going to put their thoughts out there on the internet, and people are going to see it, and people are going to read it, and people are going to ingest
It's that way now. You make any
Correct.
comments now about a former team or teammate or anything, it will get blown way out of perspective. But if you do make a stupid comment, which again, all he had to do is just thank the Cubs for his time and everything that they've done for me. And then, yes, you can give love to Yachty. Yeah, I get to follow one of the greatest catchers of all times, a future Hall of Famer. Looking forward to trying to fill his shoes in my next chapter with St. Louis. Here we go.
Yep.
But when you take a shot at your former team, it is not going to sit well. It's kind of like, what Mike said too. They won a World Series. They're going to be going back and celebrating years to come. And every time he shows up, that's going to be something that they're going to remember him as. That's going to be a thought. He may not get cheered.
He needed Crash Davis. Didn't have Crash Davis teaching him.
I think it's also worth noting too that Wilson Contreras is a very good player. He's not a great player.
Yeah.
So as a fan, I think, it's not like he's had a Hall of Fame career up to this point.
He was one of the favorites there, though.
He was
Sure,
a favorite.
I mean, yeah.
I mean, they
Not
had a
any
strong
fucking
group.
more though.
No.
You come out and you say that.
No,
what
definitely
he
not.
said as a fan, I'm saying, see you later. All right, I got no love for you now. And maybe after your career is long gone, I can look back and say, yeah, you had some good years and you were a part of some big things here. But right now, you're dead to me, man. I'm gonna boo your ass every time you step foot in this stadium.
That's a good point in the chat. His first media day when they play the Cubs is going to be a doozy.
Good luck.
Mhm.
Busiest locker right there.
Yeah.
I do think time will heal it, though, and I hear what you're saying. And right now, I think Cubs fans feel exactly that way. And for years, they're going to feel that way. I do think 10 years from now or 15 years from now, when they celebrate the 20-year anniversary of the 2016 Cubs, they'll let it go. It'll be in the back of their mind. And, yeah, he's not going to get cheered like Rizzo and Chris Bryant and some of the other players on that team. But they'll probably be like, hey, we've made peace with it. I'm going to assume over the next 10 years he's going to say, I didn't mean it to be as harsh as it sounded or something like that to make the Cubs fans feel better.
I think it also kind of depends how he does in St. Louis.
Yeah, man, if he struggles.
Or if he doubles down and trashes the Cubs every chance that he gets, which I don't think will happen. Doesn't seem like he's that kind of guy. But the only reason why it's forgivable is because they won in 16. You count that out, then all bets are off.
I'm with you on that.
I do want to pivot to another sport here. Something else that we plan to talk about. Dyer, of course, this will hit home for you a little bit. We've kind of texted back and forth about this, but have you guys been following what's going on in the world of NIL and college football in the last year or so?
Seems
There's
like
been
it's kind
some
of a
wild stuff
joke.
coming up. So
It's getting a little out of control.
it's getting out of control. The UTSA coach recently publicly both in a press conference and tweeted out about how his players are being offered money to leave their school without them being in the transfer portal by SEC and Pac-12 schools. UNC's quarterback has been offered $5 million by two separate schools to transfer. He is also not in the transfer portal at this time. Ohio State has publicly lost recruits because they're not willing to pay X amount of dollars to keep them, or actually have claimed they don't have the money to pay what these schools are offering them. And And we're seeing this more and more and more. We have guys who are being offered millions of dollars. We have guys being offered by corporations when the NCAA was supposed to not let that happen, and set up these charitable foundations. The NIL was always going to happen. It was always going to be a thing. We all knew it. It had to happen. But are we at the point where maybe we need to start finding out, or at least handing out repercussions for monetarily tampering in season? Because you're basically now making another professional league at that point.
Who are you going to sanction, though? You can't sanction whatever private person or business this is that's offering the money, right?
But you can if a coach is offering that money to a player.
If it's the coach directly
Correct.
doing it, but are these directly people involved with the organization, or are they from the
Reportedly,
outside?
some have been and some haven't been.
Yeah, I think that's the answer if it's somebody directly involved with the university, but if it's somebody on the outside, then how are you going to police that? I don't think you can.
I don't think you can either. And also, how are schools going to compete if you got a quarterback being offered $5 million in NIL money? Are your schools like, your UNCs who, aren't super focused on football? Are your schools like your Maryland's or your Rutgers, or even apparently your Ohio States, who suddenly don't have NIL coffers?
Well, I've said this, and I don't know if this is the right solution. I think maybe if you make it, you can only transfer schools one time. That's it. So if you don't like your situation, your coach takes a better job somewhere. You're whatever, you finally get the dream school that you wanted to go to. Let's just take Derek, for example. I know how much you love Michigan, but let's just say at the time I wanted to go to Michigan. Michigan was like, hey, 25% scholarship. It's different in, football where everything's 100%. But, hey, you can come here, but we're going to redshirt you. Then after your redshirt year, we're not sure if you're really going to play your freshman year, and we see you maybe getting an opportunity your sophomore year. And you say, well, I'll go to Western Michigan and go play. They're promising me that I can play. And then 2 years later, Michigan's like, man, you've been doing great. You're improving. We want you to be here. And you're like, okay, I'm going to take this opportunity. I'm going to take this chance. But then maybe that could be it for you. You can only change schools one time.
That makes the decision so much harder, and I like that. I think I would jump on board with that, because kind of like, with what was going on, and I actually didn't know, so I appreciate Terp sharing that too. Because I will say this, Michigan did get a lot of guys on some NIL deals. I'm sure they probably lost some too, but it's interesting is how they can just jump like that. And it's kind of like having a scout. Mike, you probably remember this in the minor leagues. Scouts would call us, agents would call us while we're already signed with an agent. And it's like, hey, I think you should check into this agency because we're really interested in you and we think we can get you more money than what your guy can do for you. It's the same kind of thing. And it does tend to happen. It's actually happened to my agent. I won't throw the player under the bus, but he literally left my agent to go be with another agency because they basically were telling him they're going to give him some more money, and now he's kind of in a shitty situation. And it's like, well, see, you shouldn't have left. Just because they tell you this stuff doesn't mean they're actually going to do it or whatever. So it's a scary thing. So for football players getting a jump like that, I don't like it. You shouldn't be able to jump school to school like this. The transfer portal shouldn't be open for you to where you can just jump through all these schools just because, well, you know what? I'm not having a great time here. I'm going to go somewhere else.
I think there should be exceptions. I think a coaching change might be an exception.
Yes,
to consider,
have that thrown in there.
Especially if you pledge to a coach as opposed to a program. If you're a quarterback, let's say for example, and you went to a school that has a proven quarterback coach or a head coach that's known for developing quarterbacks, or O lineman going to a school that's known for developing O linemen, and your goal is to make the NFL, that coach then leaves after a year or leaves before you even get a chance to play for him. Okay, well now I'm kind of in a pickle. We don't know who's coming in, or if the guy is coming in, maybe he's a run heavy guy, or maybe he's not, what you're looking for. Then that might be an exception. But at the same time, now instead of having people transfer at one time or whatever because of, Derek had a good season at Eastern Michigan. Now he's or Western Michigan. Now he's going to Michigan. Now it's a situation of Derek is at Michigan, and they're not paying him NIL money or not paying him a ton of NIL money, and Wisconsin comes along and says, while Derek's still with Michigan, not in the transfer portal, and says, "Hey, Derek, we really love what you're doing. We can guarantee you $2.3 million if you come play for us."
God, I don't like it. But I agree, though, with you, Terps. Like, on certain situations, yeah, you should be able to go to another school. Oh, sorry, this chair is killing me.
Because how do those kids feel? I mean, think about it. If you're the UNC quarterback and you've gotten offers for $5 million in NIL money to come play for someone, you have to be stupid not to at least consider it or
What
take
if you-
that jump.
what
Or
if
you
you,
go to UNC and UNC says, "Hey, we can't pay you $5 million."
what if you do the transfer portal? You can do as many transfer portals you want. But once you've gotten one NIL deal and now you're switching to go to another one because you're trying to get more money, you can't take the money anymore. You can transfer and go wherever you want, but you're not going to be able to keep your money.
Well, we've seen the opposite side of it too. Have you heard what's going on in Texas A&M?
Well, it
With the
seems
NIL
like
money?
they just got like a top recruiting class. I don't know how.
They're not paying. They just lost a bunch of guys who are all claiming they didn't pay out NIL.
I saw that too. I saw that they left. I didn't see that they didn't pay.
Supposedly they weren't paying out NIL. So that comes in a whole nother situation of how binding are these contracts? How binding is the NIL? You know, is it like a handshake or is it like a per player or the players get it in writing? If they got it in writing, then that's a whole nother issue.
Yeah, I mean,
The bigger question is, how did they not have all this hashed out when they decided this was going to be the way things were?
it's a contract though. They should have had a contract, and you have to honor
I
the
think he's
contract.
talking about the
No,
NCAA.
I'm saying in
Oh.
general with this whole NIL situation, like all of these things feel like things that an organization like the NCAA should have been able to foresee at least some of these items. Like this is a complete fucking shit show at this point. And it makes the NCAA look completely ridiculous.
I think they'll eventually get this worked out, but I still think it's years away from getting worked out. I think it's a great conversation, but I also think that the NCAA is like, look, fine, you want to get paid, we're doing things illegally, we're getting free labor, fine. Whoever wants to pay them, pay them. We're going to have these restrictions on the schools paying them. And then they didn't care. And they were like, all right, hey, 19-year-old, if, your parents or parent or guardian weren't smart enough to get stuff in writing and in paper, and that person didn't pay you a dime of the $150,000 or $1 million they said they were going to pay you, you don't care. That was your responsibility. We don't take any responsibility for that. A&M, if they lose a player, they lose a player. If they lose, which they are, because there were promises but no contracts, you guys weren't smart enough to know to get that in writing where you could take it to a lawyer and then they could pretty much sue and get your money because it's a contract, like Derek said. But if you're just like, oh man, this person's going to give me $500,000 and they didn't give you anything, well, that was your fault for thinking that was actually a real deal.
But then isn't the NCAA in some way as the governing body of all this who drafted the rules of what these NILs are in some way culpable for these types of situations? Even if contracts weren't in play, shouldn't they have some kind of a better framework for what it is that these young people, because we're talking about 18-year-olds. My first, when I was 18, I worked at a fucking grocery store for like $7 an hour. I wasn't making millions of dollars, and you can't. And I get the fact that they're grown adults at that point legally and should be able, or at least I shouldn't say should be able, but they're responsible for figuring this stuff out. But isn't the NCAA also in some way responsible for building a better framework for what this looks like so things like this don't happen? Why aren't they educating everybody that is involved in this process, because so much money is on the table?
Well, I hear what you're saying, but why should they? They've never cared about the player. They've cared about the money they get.
They're going to care. They're going to care when it goes into a federal courtroom.
I just don't see how you. I don't see how you hold them accountable for us. Let's just say we got this player that we really wanted to go to Michigan for Derek Holland, and we told him we were going to give him $1 million to do it, and shook his hand, and then we didn't pay him any money, and we were like, hey, we got him to go to Michigan for a year. I don't see how the NCAA's in trouble for that.
I think the question comes down to, why aren't these kids allowed to have agents then?
You can. No, you can. It's called an advisor, though.
Yeah, but how much control do they have?
Now that I can't answer. I don't know.
Because how much control can they have in terms of, do you have to pay these guys? If they are they taking a cut of your NIL? Are you, because these schools are coming in with lawyers. They're coming in with agents. They're coming in with guys like that. So it's, you got a guy being offered $5 million. Who's really looking at that contract for him?
And that's exactly right. That's the problem with the way that the NCAA has done this, is because they're doing it halfway. Well, you're not a student athlete, but you're not really a professional athlete either. You're kind of this weird gray area in the middle. And it sounds like the framework that they've built is so loose that it's allowed things like this to happen. And that's where I think the NCAA has a problem with their accountability for this situation that we're in this year. If they don't tighten it up real quick, they're going to have major problems on their hands.
I was going to say, it's only going to get way worse.
Hey, you're not a professional athlete yet, but you're going to get paid more than a lot of professional athletes are.
Let's not forget that this has been in effect for all of 6 months. And we're at this point right now. The regular season's over. The NCAA football season isn't even close to over yet. And this is where we're at. What's going to come out in the summertime after everybody's pissed off?
Well, my question is, too, what happens down the line when you have schools that just don't have booster bases that are willing to pay NIL, or don't have sponsorship deals that are willing to pay NIL, or just are not in with the NIL thing? What happens then? Where do those schools land? Do we get even more parity from the Michigans and the Rutgers of the world? Or, you could see the opposite happening. You could see these schools who don't usually perform throwing money in, but where does that happen? What happens there? Do we see schools like Ohio State fade because they're not willing to pay NIL money?
You do.
And
or do we see middle of the road type schools that do they just cut back every other program that they have and only support football?
Well, what happens is that the middle of the road schools become the farm system.
Exactly.
You go out, you sign a 2, a 3, or borderline 4-star player, or maybe you get lucky in a 5-star that other people they didn't like the ratings, or didn't like the rank, or didn't like something about them. You go out and you spend your 2 years at Rutgers, you spend your 2 years at Maryland, you spend your 2 years at UNC. You get good development. You show that you're either above your rating or in line with your rating, and these schools go, sweet, he's got 2 years of development under him now. We know he's a proven player. Let's go poach him.
Yeah, those teams are now the Cleveland Indians of NCAA football.
Hey, you guys keep rocking it. I got to go, though, right now. It's 10 o'clock. It's my bedtime, boys. Okay?
We got you.
Eric, I'm going to see you tomorrow.
Yes, sir. I'll be there. You want coffee?
Thanks for letting me join the show, guys. That was fun.
Of course. Always welcome.
We're going to get you back.
Okay.
Great to have you, man. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. See you.
See you. Well, there goes Mike.
But, Derek, you didn't really go through the whole the full
No, I didn't.
D1 college experience, but Dyer, you did. My question is, now, obviously, we all know that real money exchanged hands in all college sports, and things like meal stipends are the biggest joke on the face of the earth. Because, I'll ask you, how many times was your meal stipend collected, Dyer?
What do you mean?
When they gave you guys money for meals on the road, how many times did they take that money back or see if you spent it all?
I didn't even know they were supposed to at the time.
Legally, they're supposed to, but
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Right.
I was like,
but,
oh, really?
But that's the point. You saw that then, but you went through the whole D1 system. You went through your years. Of course, you played a non-rev sport, but of course, baseball is a revenue sport in the South and in some other schools. But how would you feel if you got the star player on your team, and all of a sudden he just ups and leaves because another school comes in and offers him $200,000 to go play baseball for them.
Well, see, that's the shitty thing about it, and kind of the dirty part of this entire arrangement is that right now, in the situation that I was in, and I think the situation that the players are in right now, they would say, yeah, that really sucks, and I'd be pissed. However, 4 years from now, when it runs that cycle of players going through the programs, and now it's just the way it is, I think it's just going to be normalized at that point, and people are going to come to expect it.
I just think it's wild. Like, Derek, how much, because this is obviously public, but how much was your rookie contract for?
My signing
Excluding-
bonus, like when I got drafted.
Yeah.
So when I got drafted, I signed for $200,000. That was
Which
a
you
25th
did-
round. I was a draft and follow, which is no longer available. Which basically means they drafted me, owned my rights until the next draft, 10 days before it. And if
I
you're
feel like for a 25th rounder, that's probably a pretty good deal.
that was technically at that time it was considered like third or fourth round money because we weren't doing
Yeah.
like those big $15 million deals like they were like when Harper got it.
So $200,000, if we go today, is probably what, 350, 400 ish.
Yeah.
Right. So that's professional athlete. That's
Yep.
you've gone through the JUCO system or whatever, or you've gone through and now you're established. You have an agent for all of that. Then you have an 18-year-old kid coming out of high school going to college, being offered
More.
millions.
Yeah.
And they're not proven at all, and have no real advisors, and
What's-
have no real.
It's the
And
same
so an
thing
eight-
when guys get drafted though. Kids that get drafted out of high school, but that's baseball. So football is different.
Right, but they also, I mean,
They can have an agent there, yeah?
a true agent.
Yeah.
I mean, not everybody's Arch Manning and their dad was a professional athlete. A great many of these folks are just working class people, or even people that are very poor that have never had, $10,000, much less $2 million.
Well, here's the tricky part too, and this has always been a tactic, but it's now publicly becoming more of a tactic. Is Derek? I'm going to use you as an example because we've been using you as an example all along. With this.
Mike
Is-
did too, so it's all right.
Yeah, that's why. Let's say now you're a big Michigan fan, right? Let's say that you're a high school kid and you followed your football dream instead of baseball, and you were highly recruited, I don't know, quarterback. You got a cannon. And Michigan comes in and they offer you a scholarship. They want you to play, and let's say they offer you, $200,000, standard NIL quarterback money now. Another school comes in, pick whatever school you want. They come in and they offer you $500,000. Then they also sit down and talk with your parents. And they pitch to your parents what $500,000 can do for them. And they pitch to future NIL deals and all of that. Michigan doesn't do that.
Yeah.
Michigan already thinks they got you.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's scary. Because here's the other thing too: is how many times does the kid actually get to really pick? You think when it comes to that kind of money? Because like, look, Dyer, you have kids. I don't want to say your son's name, but he has a chance to go to Ohio State. They're going to
Let's
give.
call him Lance.
Okay, Lance.
He's a wide receiver.
Actually, let's call him Vance Refrigeration. The office is on in the background. So,
His name's Bob.
Bob has a chance to go to Ohio State. They're going to offer, like Terps was saying, let's say $200,000. And now that rival Michigan has come into play. Actually, no, we'll go Toledo. Toledo has come into play, and they're going to give you, as Terp said before, $500,000. The coach comes and meets with you, both of them. They all come and talk to you, but you know that Bob wants to go to Ohio State. That's his school. That's his favorite school growing up. But you know that you're getting more money from Toledo. You can still possibly hit that transfer portal. God dang, dude, transfer portal. I don't know why that's so hard. You can hit that after your first year. What do you do? There's $500,000 on the table.
I know what I do, and that's be very upfront with my son and say, look, I know that your dream has always been to play for Ohio State or whatever university, and they're offering you a lot of money to do that. But if you go to Toledo, one, the pool is much smaller there, so you're almost guaranteeing yourself a spot at this point as a starter, and also making more than twice the money that you would, so that you're setting yourself up. That's an insurance policy in case something happens and you get hurt, something like that. Now you've got this money to fall back on, and it's an audition, if you'd like to call it that, so that if you go and show out your first year at Toledo, well, now maybe Ohio State comes back and matches that $500,000, and you're back to where you wanted to be, and you've just increased your value by 1.5 times.
Well, let's make this more difficult. Let's say that Ohio State offers him $200,000, right? Let's say he's a fringe 4-star wide receiver, $250,000 to come play for them, and let's say it's a year, right? That's what they're offering him, a year. Ohio State, big thing like that. But now let's say it's another school. Let's say it's Tennessee. Another Power 5 school comes into the picture, big time name, and they're the ones offering $500,000. Or let's make it even harder. Let's say they're offering $350,000 a year, because that's what's happening. You know, where does that conversation go now? Because now it's not about, hey, you can go prove yourself at Toledo, because they have a smaller, your talent level will be higher at Toledo, and Toledo's trying to build a class around you being the centerpiece. Now you're going to Ohio State or Tennessee, where you could be one of many, but hey, one's offering you $200,000, the other one's offering $350,000 a year in NIL money.
Yeah. Well, then the decision becomes easier. Then I don't have to have as much input. I go out and hire one of these advisors, agents, excuse me, and I let them present the pros and cons of what each situation is and do the research. And, maybe you pay them a little bit of money, whatever it is, of course, what their fee is, however that works. But they're the ones that are now the experts and but present the facts of the case and what the best option more than likely is. But I think the bigger piece of this is that I'm in a situation where I'm blessed enough to have a stable situation financially.
Correct. That's what I was going to say.
And I'm able to be a little bit more objective. But in a situation where you've got somebody that, maybe at times is
Single
trying
parent.
to figure out, mom's not around a lot, dad's not around, or vice versa.
Or just struggling financially, parents.
Exactly. Maybe mom's got health issues and dad's working 3 jobs, medical bills, trying to figure out what you're going to eat, that kind of stuff. Well, then the choice is obvious. You go with the money. And that's where this whole situation gets a little dicey, because the playing field has never been level, but this situation makes it less so.
Yeah. I just feel like there's going to be a lot of that happening. Parental control of, hey, go get that money instead.
Well, keep in mind, some of these kids, let's be realistic, these kids aren't signing at 18. Some of them are signing at 17.
Right. I'm just saying,
They're signing,
to me,
some of them are signing them when they're 16, which I think even brings up more to Dyer's point that he said earlier about they aren't adults yet, some of them.
Oh, yeah.
Some of these guys legally are not adults yet. They are 16, 17 years old. There are a lot of recruits who are 16, 17 when they sign. And that NIL money's offered up front. So now you have to legally speak to the parents.
Yeah.
So
man,
that's where this gets like, Because if let's use Dyer's kid, Bob, if he's a 4-star wide receiver and he's being recruited by Ohio State in 8th grade,
Yeah, that's the crazy one.
not senior year. They're not waiting until he's 18. They're recruiting him when he's, 14, 15, 16, 17. He's on their radar from the time he starts playing high school ball.
And if that's true too, I know people as soon as they signed weren't allowed to play any other sports for the rest of high school. Like, fuck. I'm sorry. I want my kid to be able to enjoy playing sports with his friends and doing the things he wants to do. Like that's why, to me, if it's me now, granted, I don't know what that's like because I don't have a kid. I'm going to be pushing my kid, hey, go where you want to go. And I'm going to tell him exactly like Dyer said, go where you're going to have the best opportunity to be successful. Where are you going to get the chance to be out there? If it's more money, cool. But if it's not, okay, let's go.
And that's a great point too, Derek, because I think that one little bit of perspective that can be added from arguably one of the top 3 athletes in the world, LeBron James. LeBron James would have been an exclusive NIL guy.
Oh, yeah.
And he played high school football.
Yeah.
I went and watched one of his games in high school football because they played an area team in the playoffs his senior year of high school. And dude was on the field. Now, you can question the effort on 85% of the plays he was giving, but he also knew that he was going to go get drafted out of high school and be the next Michael Jordan. But nobody was telling him, you can't play high school football.
Well, now that might change. How much does that change with NIL money? Hey, we're putting money behind you now. We are making a financial commitment to you to say, we want you to come play football for us. We want you to come play basketball for us, baseball for us, whatever it is. But I think the big thing to really think about, something Dyer already said, is that most of us on the, here, I mean, Derek, obviously your kid will have the experience of you being a professional athlete and kind of already understanding the contract route and having that kind of resource. Dyer being financially sound. But I think the big thing that Dyer pointed out is how many of these kids are being preyed on because their parents aren't in a financial situation, or even most people. I mean, Dyer, even you're still financially sound, but $200,000 is $200,000.
Yeah, I don't have $200,000. I'm not that financially sound.
Right. And even, and I think even people, kids of former athletes, there are lots of athletes. I mean, obviously, Derek, you're one of them, but how many of them have Peyton Manning money?
Yeah.
Or how many of them have, Mike Trout's kid? It hit the money there. I mean, Mike obviously did really well in Major League. He was there for a very long time. He doesn't have the resources they do. So that's where that comes into play too, where now that's still $500,000, still $500,000. Or in some cases, $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, $4, $5 million is a lot of money. It's a lot of money to be offering an 18-year-old kid or a 16-year-old kid or a 17-year-old kid.
Probably 95%.
Yeah.
That's tough.
And then there are those athletes who have openly said, my money is my money, not my kid's money. They have to be financially set for themselves. I'll help them out until they get to a certain point, then they have to be financially set for. Now we're talking, hey, $5 million is $5 million, buddy. You play your cards right, you're set for a decent chunk of time.
Shaq was the one that did that, saying that this is my money, you're out here to earn your own money. So I like that, but not everybody has like Shaq money to where they can say that.
Correct.
So
exactly. So
it's easy to say that when you've gone out and made that money.
Mm-hmm.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
When you haven't, you want to support your child and make sure that they're taken care of and that they're in the best situation possible. And also, there's, I'm sure, people out there saying, well, this has already been happening and you can't say this or that because, those families that were in those financially insecure situations may have already been pushing in a certain direction because of these under the table agreements that may have been made. But that was a small percentage of the entire student athlete body. Now it's completely legal and it's rampant.
Yeah.
There's no reason to hide it now. So you can't say, nobody's so naive to say that it never happened, but now it's obviously happening in a great many cases, and there's nothing legally wrong with it.
Is NIL money actually guaranteed? For instance, like a contract as baseball or basketball? Because
yes
that's the other
and no.
thing.
So there are some NIL contracts that are paid up front.
Mm-hmm.
There are also some NIL contracts that are determined based off of performance and or play. I think there was a big one. There was a big one out of Texas, I think it was, where if the kid didn't complete X amount of games played, he wouldn't be paid out his full NIL.
That would be something that has to, I think, come into play
So,
too.
There are things like that, but then there's also the NIL deals, which are pure recruiting NIL deals, which is, hey, Derek, we're going to get you to Michigan. We're going to give you $400,000, but you got to go take 3 pictures with this car dealership once a year. Where it's not really based off anything. It's just to make sure we get you. We're willing to risk X amount of money to make sure we get Derek Holland. And all he has to do is go take pictures with a car dealership or go to a office party and say hi to everybody once. So, I mean, it varies there.
Yeah.
That's the thing. There is no structure to this. There's no backbone as to what is and what isn't an NIL. At first, there was no corporations. But now Nissan can go out and they can sponsor Caleb Williams for winning the Heisman. You know, they're paying him millions.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so that's kind of out there. Really big. There's a fair amount of news coming out about the Carlos Correa situation right now, through the Twitterverse. It's come out. It's not a shoulder issue. It's not a back issue. There are a few tweets from verified sources who are saying it may be more on the Giants' end. There have been quite a few cold feet tweets as well. So that would be that would be interesting.
Not a good look.
It's not a good look. It's not a good look, but until the deal's signed, but here's the question. I don't want to go back to Correa too much because we already talked about him at length, but let's take it from your perspective, Derek, because you've been on some you've seen the underbelly of MLB. We all know stuff happens. If you have a club back out of a physical, what does that say to other players? Because that news travels.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think too many guys are going to say anything. It's just more of trying to figure out what's going on. Why is that happening?
Well, what if it is a cold feet back out? Hey, we fucked up. You know, this is too much for it.
I would say guys would be more pissed off because that changes everything for other teams. Maybe you were on a team that was like in the bidding wars to get Correa, and all of a sudden you found out like, oh, they can't, and then you went and got somebody else. A prime example, I'm just going to say the Cubs. Let's say they were in on him, and now they don't get him, and yeah, they got Dansby, but maybe they really wanted Correa. You know, those kind of things would piss you off. I as a player, I mean, I don't really know how we would truly. It's just like, what the fuck's going on? Like, I think it would just put the constant red flag on the Giants. Like, we don't know if they're going to follow through with what they're saying. Let's not take them serious. It's such a weird thing. I don't know how they would really look at it. Even for me, I sit here and look at it as a free agent. Like, I mean, I'm not even close to a name like that, but I just sit there and go, well, do they even really want to spend? Like, what's their whole plan here? What's going on there?
Was it a let's see what happens that ends up being a, yeah, sure, I'll sign that.
Or it's the other thing too is like, as a teammate, let's say I was with the Giants still, and it's like, fuck, you got me all excited to get this guy, and now we're not going to. Like, what are we doing? Are we not trying to win? Like, what's the point here?
Or the flip side is, what if what if you're a team? You're right. You said this already, but expand on it. What if you're a team like the Cubs who altered their whole offseason agenda?
Yeah, I mean that fucks
And now
everything
he's-
up.
Or the flip side, Correa's option. Okay, let's say this falls through. Let's say there's really not anything super medically wrong with him. The Giants just got cold feet on the deal and found something to medically waive it. Right? Let's say that happens. Everyone's set at this point for
Yeah.
the most part. The
Yeah.
big bidders have bid. The big bidders have signed their shortstops. Cubs got somebody.
Yep.
Done. Turner gone. You know, these guys got their guys already.
The only team that hasn't,
Dansby gone.
yeah, but the only team that hasn't that's could be chomping at the bit with this would be the Padres. They were gonna
Right.
go get Turner, so.
No, right. I'm not saying that there wouldn't be teams there, but
But
now
no,
the
I get
Padres-
it. Yeah,
But
it's
now the Padres are in the interesting position where they go, "Hey, Carlos, listen, we'll take a flyer on you, but we're the only bidders in town."
well, it just gives them the leverage.
Yeah, exactly.
So
100%.
and I don't know. It's something you got to kind of watch. I don't know what it could be. There could be more to this.
In theory, couldn't they technically trade or sell the contract? Is the contract's not final yet, though? Correct, Derek?
Yeah, it's not finalized.
It's not final. It's not final until you pass your physical. So technically, this is just a handshake agreement.
Yep, a verbal.
Yeah, which is basically a handshake. Like they can pull out. Either side could technically pull out whenever they want to.
Hey now.
It's just really bad optics to do that, and it very rarely happens. I can't. What was
Well,
the last?
maybe
time
the
a
Giants
major
pullout
player-
game is strong.
Yeah, they didn't go in protection.
Definitely didn't.
I just think that if this is the case, it's going to be a big.
It'll blow up. It'll definitely blow up.
It'll be a problem.
Fuck yeah. It's going to be something, and it will definitely. It'll have a lot going on with the guys that will be very upset about that in the league.
Especially if it's not actually something serious.
It's
If it's
true.
something serious, different story. If it's something serious, it's different. It's a whole different story. If it comes out that he needs season-ending surgery that no one knew about, that's totally different. But if that's not the case, and it really is
Man,
something more like this,
Do you think it's possible though that it's gamesmanship from Correa's camp, somebody leaking something like that to try and put pressure on the Giants to go ahead and sign the deal?
that's a big risk.
yeah.
Bigger risks have been taken.
It's true.
Look at Freddie Freeman's agent, who is no longer Freddie Freeman's agent, withholding offers.
It's true as well. That's a good question. I think that I think this would be more of a black flag. I think you're right. It would be more of a black eye to the Giants than anybody else. Because as Derek said, why would you trust them? Why would players trust them?
Yeah. I mean, that's.
If it's
I
nothing.
really, I think that there's something. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think it's. I think there's something going on medically. There's no.
Actually,
I don't think
I
there's.
hope
Has
you're-
there ever been a cold foot?
I
don't
hope
know how
you're
else to
not.
put that.
I hope you almost hope you're not wrong because you would rather, for Carlos Correa's sake, you would almost rather it be cold feet than a season-ending injury.
Yeah. Oh yeah. 100%. But that's why I'm saying I don't. Is there ever been a situation where it was cold feet? Has that ever happened before?
Let's look.
Because I don't think there has been.
At least not publicly.
That would be kind of a strange thing considering, I mean, has there been any kind of a change in executive leadership or anything like that for the Giants since
No.
No.
free agency started? I mean, like, I could see something like that happening, like, oh, the GM decided to leave and now this guy doesn't really want to do the deal. You know what I mean? That would make more sense, but usually if you're going to put a deal on the table and then get cold feet, something has to happen in between those two events to make it happen. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
What is it that happened there? And if it's not an injury, and if it's something on the Giants side, that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. I don't see what possibly could be the case for the Giants to say, we'll give you X amount of dollars for this many years. Oh, wait a minute. Never mind. I don't like that anymore. That doesn't make sense. That doesn't happen.
To me, there's only two options here. It's a serious medical. If the deal falls through, if it falls through, now hopefully it's just a minor medical thing. But Twitter's Twitter. But if the deal falls through, it's either one or two reasons. Either A, there's a serious medical condition, something serious happened. Eric said Tommy John, something like that came up. Or B, if it turns out that there's nothing really wrong with Correa, then that's the question you have to ask the Giants. The fuck happened? What happened?
I think that's where it's going to be, is what happened. I don't even know what to really think of it, because you definitely don't want to see cold feet, because that's bad. That's a very, very bad look. You also don't want to see an injury to a player.
Correct.
So this is tough, and it's gonna have a bad look.
And
Unless
if they got cold feet, try explaining that to Giants fans.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Hey guys, by the way,
They're gonna want their heads of those owners and the GM, everything. They will. That's a baseball town too.
yes, correct. Final thing I want to talk about. We did start a little bit later today than we normally do, but final thing I do want to talk about. Have you guys seen what's going on with the NFL referees?
The what?
I have not seen.
With
Happening.
the NFL refs.
Uh-uh.
There have been hot mics caught about them recently, about them fixing a call. There was a whole situation in the Commanders game where player signaled he was on, was told he was on twice by the official, and then was given a penalty immediately following that. There's been a lot of controversy recently with that kind of thing. And it has been in the past with the NFL as well. Now add in the whole roughing the passer situation, where they're calling a tackle a roughing the passer in some games and not in other games at all.
The old roughing the Brady call.
Pretty much. It's getting to the point where it's making NFL games. Some people are questioning some things, especially with the hot mics that have come out and things like that. What's your next step here?
I haven't seen one of those hot mic things, so I'm not sure.
See if I can find it.
But it's still like, I mean, I don't know. That's wild. If that's the case, that sucks. Like, you're not letting the best team win to try to protect something.
I mean, it only goes to validate everything that every old school Browns fan has been saying since Paul Brown was ran out of town, that the NFL hates the Cleveland Browns and will go to no ends to stop the Cleveland Browns from winning. We saw it with Bottlegate. How many times has it happened before or since in replay when a play was run and then they go back 2 plays and review a play, and not only review it but overturn it? I'll go ahead and tell you, one time, that was the only time. And now we have things like this happening where it's obvious that it's not just happening with the Browns, but it happens with other teams too. So I stand with those teams. Fuck the NFL.
Like, what can you do? I mean, we've had the same issue with
I'm with you,
MLB,
Dyer.
where the unions are just too strong. Like what do you do here? I mean, in a situation where the Commanders could say that call very well could have cost them the game.
Well, you can always what's it called? Not an appeal, but the game puts you put a game in protest, yeah. So you can always put a game in protest.
But it doesn't change the outcome.
It
just
gives them something that they have to talk about. They have to discuss, which can lead
NFL
to fixing it.
The NFL will just write a letter of apology and acknowledge the error and oopsies daisies, sorry, won't happen again.
Strive to do better.
But it just happens again. What can you do? The NFL is the NFL. The buck stops with them. They're the ones that make the rules. They're the ones that pseudo enforce the rules for some and not others. So where is it? Until people stop watching games and stop buying tickets, nothing's going to change.
What's getting scary though is that these leagues own their own draft books now, their own draft books, their own sports books now.
Mhm.
The NFL has stake in sportsbook. The MLB, the NHL, MMA have stakes in their own sports books. They make money off people betting on games now. So, is it really all that crazy to think that, hey, you know, maybe you don't make this call?
No, that is a horrendously massive conflict of interest for them to be allowed to have any official stake in any sports book.
Like, it's just the thing is they own their rights. So it's like, can the NFL the NFL's not gonna punish itself for having a $1 billion deal with Caesars.
Mhm.
MLB is not going to punish itself for owning a stake in Fanatics Sportsbook because they own Fanatics. NBA, same thing. They're not going to do that. So, and then you have the situation with the MLB and the baseballs and giving certain teams better baseballs, and then you have the situation, you know, there's always been questions about NBA reffing. With why are some teams fouled more than others? Why are some clearly makeup calls issued and things like that? Now you have
Tim Donaghy went to prison. That legitimately was proven that he was fixing games.
But here's the question though. How high up can you go with that though? If the league owns the sports book, what are you gonna do?
Yeah. Was he a scapegoat? Was he the one that it just got pinned on and it was a wider spread issue? But they threw it all on him to say, look, we found the problem and we fixed it. And now all the heat cools off. Exactly.
Now we're just gonna keep it going. Yeah,
makes you wonder, man.
It's getting crazy. It's getting a little bit insane with this. I mean, the World Cup also. There's been questions about match fixing there. There are some weird calls in the World Cup. Soccer's the most corrupt sport on the planet.
Everybody knows FIFA's dirty as hell.
So dirty, so dirty. They're incredibly dirty. So I mean, it is what it is, but who knows now?
But they know that people need a valve. They know that people need a release. They know that people need something to connect to. And professional sports fills that void so well for so many people. And they can do whatever they want in these cases then. Because they know that a certain number of people aren't going to walk away from it and say, I'm not supporting this anymore because of these issues. The cognitive dissonance there is so great that people will, like myself, admittedly in some ways, will say, this isn't right and this is ridiculous and it makes me angry, but I'm still going to consume your product every week because I enjoy it. But why do I enjoy it when I know that it's dirty?
Still want to see my favorite player play.
Exactly. That hope is still there that maybe it's not the way it is. Even though that I know that it could be, it probably is. Maybe it's not. And I'm going to hold on to that. And even if it were to be proven at some point, then you're going to justify it to yourself in some other way. Well, it's not always like that. It was just only when they showed that it was. Man, it's disappointing.
Thank you.
That's for Derek. You're welcome. I had to give you that. And I think the thing too is what's most upsetting about it, and Derek's hounded this point over and over and over and over and over. There's not a professional sports athlete in any of the major sports in the US that is going to throw a game. Let me rephrase that. 99% of athletes aren't going to throw a game.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But the overwhelming majority aren't going to want to be part of that because they're competitors. They want to win.
Correct.
And so if I'm the league, this is where I put my tinfoil hat on here. Put my Dyer hat on here. If I'm the
Thank
league,
you for that.
you're welcome. If I'm the league, I know I can't get Derek Holland to do dirty bidding for me. But I can get the umps to. I can change rules. I can alter outcomes. I don't have to make Derek do what I want. I have to make it so it's hard for Derek to do what I don't want him to do.
Why do you think the umpires are so protected?
Well, here's the deeper question: how many umpires, referees, officials are doing it knowingly, versus how many are just following the rules that they've been told to call? Like, how many umpires, if they go out there and they say, "Hey, we are really going to, we really want to focus on a tighter strike zone this year. We really want to see you call a tight zone, and we're gonna have zero tolerance for whatever this is."
Well, that's the thing. That's the thing that makes the fix so important in the way that you do it. You can't have everybody in on it, right? Otherwise, it would be obvious, more obvious.
Yeah.
But there's a couple. There's a few, and those few always end up in the big games where it matters, where the money's on them, and that's where the fix goes. It's always that situation. It's always that one guy, and it's not always the guy running the show. It's not always the crew chief or the white hat referee. Maybe it's a line judge, or maybe it's whatever the third base umpire. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
maybe they're not always involved in a play that is going to be the one that alters a game. But when they get their situations, when they get a chance to make a call that could change an outcome of a game, by God, they're going to do it. That's all you need is the one. You need to put them in the right place at the right time. And they know where those places are and when it's going to be, in general. Or at least from a standpoint of probability. They're not stupid.
I mean, it's easy to tell an NFL official, "Hey, we need you to be really, 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 really strict in this game against roughing the passer."
Mhm.
I'm not gonna tell you why, but we need you to be strict on roughing the passer in this game. Or we really need you to be cognizant of players lining up off the line in this particular game. You don't have to worry about the other games, but this game you're doing, we need you to be cognizant of that.
Or on that scale, if there's one game that you want to be strict about that week, then you send out a league-wide memo to the referees and say, "Hey, we really want to put an emphasis on roughing the passer this week." So maybe across the board it is for that 1 week, but it's definitely in that game that you want it to be. And then you don't send out a memo after that. And maybe it's a little more front of mind for them, but not as much. And then as weeks pass, it becomes less and less and goes back to baseline.
Yeah. I mean, obviously Derek can't really speak on the the umpire situation. That's why he's been quiet. But it's still it's not for everyone out there saying that's not true. None of this shit's happening. You're living under a rock. It's happening. It's been proven. It's gonna keep happening while there's money to be made in the sport. That's just the way it is. While there's money in the sport, and there's money to be made through betting. People are going to keep emphasizing non-calls, and you're going to see weird things happen more and more and more and more and more, more and more.
It's like the great George Carlin said, "It's a big club, and you ain't in it."
Not wrong. Not wrong. I think that's it for us, unless you guys have anything you want to talk about before we kind of do an end of year wrap up.
No, because what day is Christmas?
Sunday.
Sunday.
And then you'll be traveling.
Sunday.
I travel the 28th. It's Wednesday.
Yes.
So it's possible.
I'm going to say probably no.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd say we take next week off.
I think, yeah. But I think there's some housekeeping we need to do anyway.
Okay.
Which we can take care of next week.
Because I'm going to be out Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday anyway.
There we go.
Okay. There it is then. So it means
So then we do have one more segment we need to do then. We have one more segment we need to do then.
what's
If we're
that?
not doing one next week. We have to talk about it. We have to talk about it. We have to do our potentially final college football picks of the year. And there's only 3 games we need to do.
Oh. Okay.
There's only 3 games we need to do.
I haven't even added up those last games, so
Well, that's fine. But let's start with the easy one. Sorry, Tyler. I know I said we were to be done, but since we're not doing one next week, we have to do it now. We have to. Let's start with the easy one that has no consequence whatsoever, but they are in a bowl game. Let's go to Maryland Terrapins taking on the NC State Wolfpack. Maryland is currently a 1-point favorite in this game, over under 47.5 between the two teams. Talia Tagovailoa will be playing for Maryland. He has said that publicly. NC State does not know who the quarterback's going to be. Devin Leary has already transferred out of the program. They're not sure where they're going with that. Maryland will be without 2 wide receivers. However, their main guy should still be there. They're also without their starting cornerback, who was an all Big Ten selection. The Wolfpack will be without, of course, their quarterback, as well as some wide receivers as well, but will remain mostly intact, although they did struggle end of the year a little bit there. This game is in Charlotte. It's in North Carolina. So keep that in mind.
yeah. I mean, I'm to me it doesn't matter. I'm still taking Maryland. I get it. NC State's they're good for the most part. I don't feel they're that good. I don't think they're better than Maryland. I think Maryland is going to destroy them. Too good of an offense. It could be a high scoring game, but too good of an offense. Maryland's winning. I got them winning by 10.
Fire.
This game taking place in Charlotte, North Carolina, home of the greatest of all time, the man, the 14-time world champion Ric Flair.
Woo!
Woo!
Jersey
And I'm
Devils
having
legend.
trouble holding these alligators down. But guess what? That's the only good thing that's coming from Charlotte this time. Because Tagovailoa is going to be there, and NC State's quarterback is not. 2 claps into Ric Flair. Woo! For the Terps.
I like that. I'm also going Maryland here. I think they care more. I think Mike Loxley's got that program caring more. It's first back-to-back bowl games for them since the mid 2000s with Ralph Friedgen as head coach. I think that they care more. I think NC State's a little upset with how their season went. Losing your quarterback, Devin Leary, who is top-tier quarterback. And even though NC State's line is better than Maryland's in terms of offensive and defensive line, I think Maryland cares more in this game. I don't know if it's going to be a blowout like last year where Virginia Tech just did not give a shit. But I think Maryland squeaks out this one. I see them winning by a touchdown or so. But I think it could be a barn burner.
Yeah, I think
Two
that
teams
too.
that don't see each other.
Yeah. And I think too, it's just you got so many guys that are going to be coming back from Maryland. They care, like you said. It's Maryland's going
Starting
to run away
quarterback's
with
coming
this.
back, and he might be leaving, so that says something. Let's go to the Ohio State Buckeyes, number 4, taking on the number 1 Georgia Bulldogs. Ohio State 11-1, Georgia undefeated, of course. This game on New Year's Eve. I still think it's the dumbest time for games because it's New Year's Eve. And there's other New Year's Eve games. I still think these games should be their own standalone games.
I know,
Standalone
but
day.
it makes sense with what they're doing, though.
It does. Georgia is a 6.5-point favorite with an over-under of 62 points in this one. Dyer, we'll let you go last because it's your team in this situation. I guess I'll start with this. It's tough for me. In order to beat Georgia, you have to be A+. A+ game. I think Georgia might be one of the best teams in the country. does Ohio State have the weapons to beat Georgia? Yes. Are they able to beat Georgia? Yes. Do I think that if I have to take them in a game situation and put money on the line here, I think I think Georgia's coming out with this one. I think it'll be a close game, but I think that Ohio State already has some players either injured or sitting out, big time players injured or sitting out in this one. As much as I want Ohio State to win this game, and I think they're more than capable of winning it, I think Georgia wins this game. I think they win it by about 10.
Yeah, man, this is a tough one.
It is.
I do like Ohio State. I would like to see them spoil this, because then obviously, as for us, it would be cool to have a rematch. I don't want to see it, but I do want to see it because it would be cool, because it's two Big Ten teams in the championship. That's the one thing that I like. Georgia, though, man, they're such a great team. Ohio State does have every bit of their guys that can beat this team. They have an unbelievable receiving core that I don't know if Georgia can keep up with. It's a matter of Ryan Day winning in the big games. We've talked about this before, and I don't think he really has, but again, I could be wrong. He has all the talent in the world, but he has not done much with the big games. This is a big game. They've got plenty of time to plan for it, which I think that plays into his favor. But I don't think they're going to have enough to beat Georgia, because I think what everyone else wants to see is a rematch of Georgia and Michigan. I know Michigan wants it more than anything, just because we owe it to them. We need to beat their ass. We need to beat them because they beat the shit out of us last year. We need to get back and get them. I got Georgia winning. It will be a close one, but when I say close, it'll be 7. They win by 7.
Dire.
This is your cue.
I really want to say Ohio State's going to win. I want to go out there and say that they're going to do it. They match up so well against Georgia. I think they really do. The passing game has been such a huge part of the success of the Buckeyes this year, and the deep passing game, pass defense, I should say, of Georgia was a bit of an Achilles heel. But so much of what Ohio State was able to do early in the year, with that early to mid part of the year, was based on that two-headed rushing attack with Mayan Williams and TreVeyon Henderson. Mayan Williams is going to play, TreVeyon Henderson will not, and that's a big problem. Jackson Smith and Jigba's not going to play. He's going into the draft.
I think it's so silly.
Yeah. When you
It's a
got a
national
chance to
playoff
play
game.
for a national title, man.
Yeah.
He's 20 years old. I kind of get it, though, because he had the hamstring injury, but what better way to bump up your draft stock than to go out and beat the number 1 team in the country, or the number 2, whatever Georgia is. The defending champions, we'll call them. I just don't think that Ryan Day is the game planner that his predecessor was. I think that's the X factor. I don't think Ryan Day is good enough to go out and beat Georgia on their best day. And Georgia's going to have their best day, because that's who Georgia is right now. And as much as it pains me to say it, Buckeyes lose this one.
This game, of course, in Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. For almost any other school in the country, I would say this would be a problem. Ohio State's not one of those teams. I think the fan split will be pretty even. Ohio State travels extremely well. They'll show up for a playoff game. If it was TCU versus Georgia in Atlanta, different story.
Mm-hmm.
But both Michigan and Ohio State, I don't think that's as big of a problem there. I don't think home field's as big. But yeah, I think we all kind of all in agreement. I think Georgia could be well on their way to back-to-back. They look like an NFL team at times. They're very well coached, very well put together. Speaking of the other end of the bracket, TCU 12-1, coming off a lost to Kansas State in their conference championship, going up against undefeated 13-0 Michigan. Michigan, a 7.5-point favorite in this game. This game taking place at State Farm Stadium in Glendale, Arizona. Over under 58.5 points. Derek, you'll go last, of course, because it's your team. I guess I'll start again, and then we'll go to you, Dyer. I like Michigan in this one, plain and simple. I think TCU is going to be able to score. We know they're going to be able to score. They have really good offense. They have a Heisman caliber quarterback in Max Duggan, who has proven that facing adversity, he can do what he needs to do when his team's down. He's shown that before. He's a little banged up. I'm not too worried about that with him, though. He is going to perform. We know that. The questions I have with TCU is their defense. Twofold. One is their defense. I think J.J. McCarthy is going to be able to do what he did against Ohio State and replicate it against TCU. He's been very poised. There are questions about him. He's young. I don't think that'll be too big of an issue. That said, is Corum out for the year, Derek?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah,
right?
he had surgery.
Yeah.
He had surgery.
Yeah, he's out. So that is a question there. Is you do lose Corum now? They didn't have him against Ohio State. They didn't have him in the Big Ten championship. So we saw, early in the Big Ten championship, there was a little bit of struggles with Purdue. They did figure it out at the end. They cannot do that against TCU. They have to come out swinging against TCU because TCU is going to score. The flip side of that is Michigan's defense is far superior to that of TCU's. You're looking at a team, Michigan, that gave up 277 yards on defense. TCU gave up 385 yards on defense per game. We know that Michigan has a very good rush defense and a above average pass defense. TCU is middle of the road on both. Rush yards allowed 150 rush yards per game, 236 passing yards allowed per game by TCU, as opposed to 191.8 passing yards allowed by Michigan and only 85 rushing yards allowed per game by Michigan. That all said and done, I just think Michigan's defense is going to get it done for them. I think they're going to win the turnover battle, which is going to be very important. I think Michigan wins this one pretty handily. I could see this being a 10-plus score game here.
TCU Horned Frogs. I love them. I'm a big fan of the Horned Frogs. Fantastic offense, can score with anybody in the country, and God dang it, they're one of the most fun teams to watch in the country. But part of the reason why they are is because they play in what conference?
The no defense conference?
The no defense conference. And they've got a middling defense in the no defense conference, which means their defense is actually fucking horrible. So, as they go up against an actual good team, you got to give credit where credit's due. I hate Michigan, but they're a fantastic team. They are a top 5 team. They're a top 3 team, maybe even a top 2 team. And I think we're going to see a rematch this year. And I'm not talking about Ohio State and Michigan. I'm talking about Michigan and Georgia. We're going to see a rematch on that game because Max, don't call me Jim Duggan, is going to put points on the board, but he's not going to put enough points on the board. This one's going to come down to who can have a stop or 2, and I think Michigan is the obvious choice for getting a stop or 2 against a fantastic offense and winning this game in a high-scoring battle. Give me Michigan all day.
Well, with that being said, I get to take the floor. Michigan and TCU. TCU has been a fun team to watch. The big advantage for them, they have the strongest strength of schedule of all the 4 teams that are in this college playoff. Plays a big factor, in my opinion, when it comes to this game. Yes, they don't play defense in the Big 12, but yes, they do put up points. So it does come down to Michigan putting up some points and putting the stop. That's what they need. I think Michigan can do it. The talk was always going into the Ohio State game that Michigan was not going to be able to cover the passing game of Cade Stroud, who to me is also a Heisman candidate as well. He's a unbelievable quarterback. He showed that not once but twice, back-to-back years. Obviously, Michigan was able to contain him. Now it's time to see if Michigan can contain another Heisman candidate. The running game, obviously we lost our best running back, but the next running back up picked up the slack. We've got several running backs with this team. They have a great offensive line, a great running core. And we talk about J.J. McCarthy, and I will get back to Donovan Edwards. J.J. has thrown 100 less passes than Duggan, but he's also only got one less interception. So he's still dispersing the ball very well and being very cautious with what he's doing. He also has 10 less touchdowns, but again, 100 less attempts. So you could also say for both, even with the interceptions, it could be more. But he's done a very good job of spreading the ball around and securing the ball at the same time. He is a very good quarterback that can run as well. His legs play a factor just like Duggan. So I think the quarterback is fairly even matched. Obviously, Duggan the better quarterback, though. But I just feel with this rushing game, they're not going to be able to stop him. I see Donovan Edwards running for over 200 yards against TCU's offense. I do see it being a fairly close game because Michigan will have a lot to contain with this offense. But I see them winning, and I don't see them covering the spread. I see them winning by 7. And we get the rematch we've been waiting for. Georgia. Michigan.
Yeah, I like we all said, I think the big thing with TCU is just, can they handle Michigan's defense at the end of the day? Can Max Duggan get around Michigan's defense?
The other thing too, and I like that. Can they handle it? I also want to see this to be a close game because the Big Ten and the Big 12 get ripped apart all the time for being not strong conferences, and it's always about SEC. I want to see TCU hang around, keep it close. Obviously, Michigan win, even if it's a close game, win by 3 or 7. That's fine. But I also want to see Ohio State put up a run for its money against Georgia. Yes, I know I would love to see a rematch to represent Big Ten, but I also think it's the more money to me, which is weird to say it, would be the Georgia-Michigan, even though Michigan-Ohio State created the most revenue this year, or most watched football game this year in college football. So I think that plays into a factor, but I just want it to be a fairly close game so that these two divisions can be represented the right way.
I think the bigger issue with that will be Ohio State, Georgia, than TCU, Michigan.
Yeah.
I think if Ohio State gets blown out of the water again, then the question will be, why were they let in to begin with? And you have other one-loss teams. Like that's
Yeah, no, because then it
State's
becomes
more of the-
Alabama. Alabama
Correct.
should have been in. That's what they'll say.
Ohio State, Alabama might very well lose to Kansas State. Let's be real here. They might very well lose to that team because they don't want to be in that bowl game, which would be hilarious.
Hmm.
But again, it's going to come down to, can TCU handle Michigan's defense at the end of the day, and can J.J. McCarthy handle adversity again? Because I get the feeling TCU is going to score first.
Mm-hmm.
I think TCU comes out, punches them in the mouth.
Yeah.
I think the first set of plays for Max Duggan are scripted. If they go with a scripted set right off the rip, I see them scoring quickly right off the rip because that's what Max Duggan does. And the question now becomes, J.J. McCarthy, you've proved it before. Can you prove it on the biggest stage? You haven't had to yet.
Ohio State has a better chance to beat Georgia than TCU has to beat Michigan.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I think
That's
Ohio
so
State
tough
has
to say. I don't know.
the one thing Ohio State has that TCU does not have is depth of weapons.
Yeah.
TCU's deep team. They're a deep team. They're a very good team. I don't want to make it sound like I'm not saying they're a good team. They're an incredible team. Their depth was exposed against Kansas State. Ohio State is an Alabama of the world. It's just churn out another 5-star, churn out another 5-star, churn out another 4-star, churn them out. Let's keep going. The depth's there. So that's the one thing that Ohio State has. But Georgia has that too. So.
But there's the matchup problem. Ohio State matches up better with Georgia than
They
TCU does with
They
Georgia,
do.
with Michigan.
Georgia fans
TCU
didn't want Ohio
isn't-
State.
No, they didn't.
They wanted Ohio State to be 3.
Mhm.
They wanted TCU to be 4.
Because Georgia's defense is fantastic, and their offense is very good.
That's why it's only a 6-point spread.
Yep.
If it was the other way around, if it was a rematch of Ohio State, Michigan, and TCU, Georgia, I guarantee you TCU would probably be a 10, 12-point dog against Georgia. That's the matchup they wanted. They didn't get it. That's what they wanted.
Yep. I'd say 8.5 point minimum.
Over a score.
Yep.
Over a 1-score game, if that was the case. I think Dyer is absolutely correct. I think that's going to do it for us, though. This is going to be our last show of 2022. We will be back, of course, 2023. We've already confirmed at least 2 guests who are willing to come on early on. Mr. Dane Dunning has already agreed to come on, and Mr. Carlos Rodon has already agreed to come back and come on for a show. So January will be fun. We will keep you guys posted as things go on. Derek, of course, is still a free agent, so the show might go back to being a little bit of a more Sharps show, maybe with some Mike Baskett in there, maybe with some Choppy in there. Hopefully Derek finds himself a home, and hopefully that means that he is busy during
Yes.
the season. If that's the case, it'll go basically what it did last time, where Dyer and I will carry the ship, bring some guests on. Maybe I think this year we're gonna try to do some guest hosts as opposed to just guests to kind of mix things up a little bit, because I know we can fill that in. And yeah, so we hope that you all have a safe, happy New Year, and a safe and happy Christmas or Hanukkah, whichever one you guys are celebrating. If you're not celebrating anything, we hope you have a good time off work, good time off school, and enjoy your New Year. Anything you guys want to say, closing words for the year, or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, happy holidays to everybody that's out there. Hope you guys enjoy the time with family, friends. Reach out to the people that you care about. Let them know that you love them, and, be grateful for this time. Not everybody gets to have this time with family and friends, so enjoy it while you can, and get ready to set those goals. Let's, we're going to have some things, you want to do for the next year. Motivate yourself. We want to make sure we all follow through with what we're trying to do, what we're trying to accomplish, set the bar high. Doesn't matter how high it is. Let's see if we can all get there. That's the main thing. So continue to push ourselves to be better people each day, but enjoy the holidays. As Terp said before, happy holidays from all of us. Enjoy yourselves.
Absolutely, likewise, man. Give a big hug to everybody close to you. Be thankful for what you got, even if it's not that much, because chances are you got more than somebody else does. So just enjoy life, enjoy love, and enjoy the season.
So we'll see you guys all in 2 to 3 weeks. There will be 2 podcasts dropped back to back. Of course, our Christmas special will be dropped, and this episode will be dropped. So you guys will have some listening material to listen to. Don't worry. But for all of us here, for Choppy and for Gnome, thank you all for hanging with us. Be sure to follow us on Spotify, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitch, wherever you guys find us. Give us a like, give us a comment. Follow us at OTFP Pod on Twitter. And we'll see you guys all in a few weeks. Happy holidays, guys.
Okay, bye.
Deuces.